Well, it's 7:07. I'm going to read the script. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing over the Lunenburg Public Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. And it's also my understanding that it's not being live streamed over YouTube tonight. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. To participate remotely on Zoom meetings, members of the public may use cell phones, tablets, or computers with audio and video capabilities. The Zoom meeting ID is 845-3757-6220. No participant ID is needed. Just press pound when asked. All participants who are not members of the commission or staff will be muted by the chair. Computers and app users may use the raised hand feature to request to speak. Depending upon your version of Zoom, your raised hand feature may either be the raised hand button at the bottom of the participant list, or it may be in the reactions panel. The chair will call on you and unmute you. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Members of the public must give their name and address before they begin speaking. Please direct all comments to the chair. Please be aware if you're using video, other people will be able to see you, and that anything that is being broadcast will be recorded. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. I'm Bob Pease. We'll do a roll call. Make sure everyone can hear and we can hear them. Ken Jones.
I am present.
Rich Birch.
Present.
Katie Childs.
Here.
Carl Luck. Jack Rabbit.
Present.
Jeff Viviano.
Present.
And Mike told me he wouldn't be here tonight. That's it. So first is public comment. Do any members of the commission have any public comment or I gotta admit some more people. Have any public comment?
Bob,
Go ahead.
I guess I'm just a little confused as to the makeup of the commission this evening after the appointments last night.
The terms, Ken and Carl's terms do not expire until June 30th. And, the two new members, their terms do not begin until July 1st.
Thank you.
I clarified that with the town clerk today. And then I was also copied on an email from Elaine Peterson to each of the new members, letting them know that their terms begin, on July 1st and run till June 30th, 3 years from now.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Any comments or public comment from members of the public? Please raise your hand. Seeing none. We have minutes of the previous meeting, May 19th. Do we have, they were sent out, revised and sent out again. There's anyone, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
Make that a motion.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
I was not present, so I'll abstain at this point.
Thank you. Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Wasn't able to read them, Mr. Chairman. I'll pass.
Okay, Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Aye for myself. I believe that's the required 4 votes. So how about the May 5th minutes? I believe those, we could also vote on those tonight. We've had 2 iterations of those now.
Actually, Bob, those were approved at the last meeting.
They were.
They were approved with amendments to them, and I made the amendments and then sent them out.
I understand. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
On to our first appointment. First of all, I would just make a general remark. We have the equivalent of 22 hearings tonight. And so I would ask people to be brief. The Conservation Commission is getting quite the reputation in town for late meetings. So first is LSIC update. And I assume that will be Wendy and Joanna. And so, Wendy, are you going to do the presentation?
I am, thank you.
All right, let me, you want to, right now I've got screen sharing on. Either you can share your screen or I can do
Perfect.
it.
I'll share mine.
All right,
And while she's doing that, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say thank you to Ken Jones for his volunteerism. It was a pleasure spending my last 6 years with Ken. I enjoyed his feedback, his detail to our order of conditions, and it was a pleasure to work with him. And I just want to thank him for volunteering.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Joanna.
Joanna.
Appreciate it.
You're awesome, Ken.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can you give me permission to share? It says host
I
disabled.
believe, I thought that I had turned on screen sharing. Well, let me look at the meeting controls.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll introduce myself. Good
Oh,
evening,
oh.
Commission. My name is Wendy Gendron, and I am the environmental consultant representing the Lake Shirley Improvement Corps. We're here tonight to talk about the annual report that was submitted at the closing of the calendar year last year. I do have a presentation. I understand your schedule tonight, so I will try to be brief. I believe I emailed it to Matt
And
earlier today.
if you're having trouble sharing your screen, I can share my screen, but
Can we, yeah,
I
I'm
do-
having
I-
trouble. If you don't mind sharing the presentation and
I have turned on screen sharing for participants, so
yeah, I know, it just says host disabled. All right, that's it. So we can go from that. That's
All right.
perfect. All right, so again, we're here just to briefly talk about the report that was submitted. It's the activities that occurred from October 15th of 2019 through October 15th of 2020. So it's not this past drawdown season that we just finished up on. So I just wanted to make that clear. If you had questions about that, I can certainly entertain them, but I probably don't have all the details that you're looking for. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the first lake management technique that the LSIC does annually is a target drawdown. So they draw down the water level in the winter. And the intent of this is to freeze the roots and have some physical action of the ice ripping up the unwanted plants along the shoreline. The target drawdown depth is 6 feet. Unfortunately, it was not achieved during the drawdown season of the winter of 19 to 20. There were some delays in permitting. As you know, the lake spans 2 towns. So getting the 2 towns and all the permitting together and getting all the meetings done before the start of the drawdown was a little challenging that year. So we started a little bit late. And we had unfortunate weather conditions where it was kind of warm and dry. So they did not achieve the target drawdown of 6 feet. They were able to reach a 3-foot drawdown. There was no fish kills reported during the drawdown period, and the lake was completely refilled by the required time, March 27th. So, and feel free to interrupt me if you have questions, but I'll try to get through this quickly. Next slide, please. So we monitor the Secchi disk transparency, which is really a measurement of the water clarity. And this is a trigger usually to indicate whether we perceive an algal bloom either starting or if we have excessive turbidity. The graphic shows the depth as you go from the surface at the top all the way down to it's a 14-foot, and those are the measurements throughout multiple years. So if you look at the tail end of it, sorry, that's all the 2020 data. So if you look at the tail end of it overall into September, we had excellent water clarity. The lake was really, really clear. And I think this was due to, we had a very dry summer last year. It was extreme drought conditions. So I think the stormwater inputs were very minimal, and that did not result in some algal turbidity nor disturbance of sediment or incoming sediment into the system. So all the water quality depths were greater than 5 feet, and that's the red line that's shown on the graph. And that threshold is where we would trigger some algal sampling. So when the water quality is less, water clarity is less than that threshold, it triggers us to take some samples. So we had great water clarity this year. Next slide, please. We also monitor temperature and dissolved oxygen. As you can see, the lake in these graphics, hopefully you had a minute to take a look at the report, so I don't have to explain how the graphics are provided, but essentially those straight lines essentially means that the temperature and oxygen levels were consistent all the way down to the deepest part, about 10 feet at the 3 locations where we monitor. The faint red line on there is a threshold for 5 milligrams per liter, and that's the state threshold of where fish kind of start being stressed. So thankfully our oxygen levels remained above 5 milligrams per liter throughout the year. So it's good news. Next slide, please. We also monitor pH, connectivity, and turbidity. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. Essentially, everything was relatively normal, what we've seen in the past. The lake is slightly basic, and that's likely due to some algae as well as some rooted plant productivity here. There's a little bit paragraph here that shows how the relationship of photosynthetic activity and carbon dioxide and how that affects pH if you wanted to understand the chemistry a little bit better. And then the conductivity values were about 250 microsiemens per centimeter, and essentially anything around that threshold is somewhat of an urban watershed and an urban lake. Anything getting above 500 microsiemens per centimeter, you're starting to look at a very highly productive and a lake that's impacted by different inputs. So, okay, you can switch to the next slide, please. We monitor nutrients. Specifically, we look at nitrogen and phosphorus. Phosphorus is the limiting nutrient. It's really what we're most intrigued by. When I say it's a limiting nutrient, it's the nutrient that's found in shortest supply, but yet is an important and required nutrient for algal growth. So if you can control phosphorus, generally speaking, you can control algal growth. The phosphorus levels this year were really desirable. We had an average of about 0.01 milligrams per liter, and the threshold where you start to see algal problems is 0.025. So we were well beyond that. Again, I think this is attributed to the dry weather with very low stormwater inputs. Next slide, please. Even though we were required to do monitoring, we still did collect algal sampling. This graph here, it's showing three different dates throughout the years from 2015 to 2020. In the 2015, the blue bars represent cyanobacteria. So you can see that we had excessive cyanobacteria back in 2015. And cyanobacteria are particularly important because those are the species that actually can produce toxins. And so they can have health and health impacts to both humans and wildlife, including pets. So that kind of really triggered some serious monitoring for the lake. And thankfully, since 2015, we've had relatively low algal densities and very few cyanobacteria. We did have quite a high value of sorry, I'm looking at that graph. I think it's late September or late August in this past year, but it was Chrysophyta. So this algae, I'm showing Dinobrion there in the little graphic. They look like little wine glasses, and that's a typical kind of brown alga. It's not really problematic other than it reduces your water clarity and can be a aesthetic nuisance, but it's not a health and safety risk. Next slide, please. For the herbicide treatment, you know, we submitted, our Solitude submitted a pre-treatment report, and their pre-treatment report included excessive portamogetans. Portamogetans are a native pondweed species, and the growth of these portamogetans was far greater than we had seen in the past. And we believe that had to do with not getting the extended drawdown to 6 feet and the warm weather conditions. But it's biology, so it doesn't always follow rules like physics and chemistry and engineering, unfortunately. We can just theorize of why conditions were different. Other nuisance species were present: fanwort, curlyleaf pondweed, and a native but nuisance species, tape grass. There were no milfoils present during the pre-treatment survey, so that's good news. Again, 2020 was a very good year for aquatic plants. It was sunny, it was dry, there was clear water, really ideal for that sunlight to reach the bottom and spur growth. Areas greater than 50% coverage of non-native species were treated with herbicides. And we excluded a couple areas based on our prior meetings and with the Conservation Commission in an attempt to preserve growth of Portamogeton robinsii, again a native pondweed, and Ceratophyllum diffusum, another native that we've seen a trend of a decline in the frequency of observations of those two species. Next slide, please. We also did something different this year. Solitude applied flumoxazin, which is clipper is the common name, and in the area that's circled in yellow is the test plot where they tested the use of this on fanwort. We haven't been very successful in controlling fanwort with herbicides. It's a very difficult customer. There is another herbicide called Sonar that's pretty efficacious with it, but that comes with some other difficult treatment methodologies. You have to leave the chemical in the pond at a higher dose for 30 days, and it's very hard to maintain that concentration with a lake that flushes as quickly as surely can under wet weather conditions. And it's actually really expensive to do a whole lake treatment with Sonar. So they tested this clipper, and they actually saw some really good control of fanwort in the test cove. So that was an area you guys probably recognize as the Pearl Street Cove area. No fish kills were reported during any or following the treatments. Next slide, please. So at the end of the season survey, so this is what I go out and do. I repeat the 66 points that Solitude does in terms of looking at the plants. I do probably a little bit different methodology survey where I'm really looking quite detailed to see what's present and what's not. And I think Solitude focuses more on the invasive species. So I'm also hunting for those for those native species that we want to make sure are maintained in the lake. So what's interesting, in those non-treatment areas, non-native fanwort and naiad dominated the conservation areas at the end of the treatment, and there was no conservation species found at these locations. And why that's very interesting is they were at those points at the last year, and then they're not there this year, and we can't say that it's due to the herbicide because the herbicide wasn't applied there. And we actually think that it was fanwort being left untreated and the naiad being left untreated resulted in out competition of the native species and kind of choked it out. The conservation species were observed in other areas, however, that were treated. So there wasn't a clear correlation between treated and untreated areas. So it looks like perhaps that the herbicide was successful in knocking down the naiad and maybe some fanwort and allowed the native species to be present and later in the year. Next slide, please. So the end of the, again, at the end of the plant season survey, we look at cover and biomass. Cover is the percent of the bottom that's really covered by plants on a 2-dimension, and biovolume is looking at the entire water column. The cover is presented in the blue line, and it's the survey results from 2003 all the way to 2020, and the orange is biovolume. We saw a decrease in both cover and biovolume in 2020 versus 2019, but I must point out that the scale on this graphic makes it look like there's a big drop, but there really isn't much of a drop between a value of 3.25 and a value of 2.75. So yes, there was a drop. I'm not sure if it's really significantly different. Next slide, please. Okay, richness. Richness is the number, essentially the number of different plant species we encounter during the surveys. And the upper graph shows all data, meaning all the species that we found in the lake, and the richness value is over on the left. So you see at the height of species back in 2002, where I think there was 27 species identified, we've had a marked decrease in number of species over the years. But then we must look at the targeted species, because if we're trying to remove these species, we can't count that against the total number and say that you know, oh geez, there's a problem here, because the goal is actually to remove these species. So those are those blue lines, and those are the ones we should really focus on. And then at the bottom, it shows the change per prior year. So the red bars indicate a reduction of number of species observed at the surveys from the prior year, and the green bars suggest that there was an increase in number of species. Bottom line is from last year, there was no difference. There was no difference in the number of species that we recorded. Next slide, please. This is diversity and evenness, which it kind of tells us what those number of species made up. So, I mean, if you had 20 species, but you've only encountered one species at one location, and then it was completely dominated by other species at the other 65 points, that's really not a well-balanced system. So this is another measure that helps us look at the ecology a little bit better. Here we saw a slight uptick in the amount of the diversity and evenness, but again, I wouldn't put money on it that was an actual statistical difference. Next slide, please. This shows us over the last 5 years what species were present and have they increased or decreased. When something is hot red there, that means that there's a lot. So remember, I had mentioned that we surveyed 66 locations. If you look at the first hot red, that's in September of 2019, you can see that European naiad was found at 60 of the 66 sites. In September of 2020, it was found at 35 of the 66 sites. So we had a reduction in the abundance of European naiad. We also had a reduction in fanwort. So all of that is good news. We did, as well as wild celery or vallisneria, which is also a target species to reduce its presence in the lake. We had we also had the next market difference was we had a reduction of bushy pondweed, Nagus flexilis. And that was a pretty substantial reduction, but here I'm thinking that there's differences in how one species is classified all the way down to the species level versus just the genus. Let's see if there's anything. Sorry, I have to move everybody's faces over here so I can see the next column there. And there really wasn't anything of note to report out on the smaller pondweeds and the other pondweeds in the lake, other than the Robbins pondweed that we did not see last year. We saw in 2 locations this year. Next slide, please. So also the LSIC always works to educate the public as well as do other things, hopefully in partnership with the town, to preserve the lake and hopefully improve some of the conditions. They continually update their website. They've held monthly virtual association meetings that were always open to the public. Their recurring topics are best management practices, water quality, volunteer opportunities. They are continually doing outreach and communication through social media. And we did have contact with the town this year, exploring the possibility of applying for a 319 grant for a potential pilot project. We ran into some hiccups at that time because we believe that the grant excluded this watershed because it was regulated under MS4, so the municipal stormwater sewer system. So we are going to continue to explore this alternative in the future. I think they've relaxed some of those regulations, so we're hopeful that it's sometime in the future we will be eligible with the town to apply for such a grant. Next slide, please. So the 2021 plan, we're going to continue with the same plan. We didn't find any data to suggest that what we were doing is we're off on a bad course. Again, we saw some reduction in percent cover and biomass, and really good, I guess, reduction in the number times that we encountered the target species, that meaning the fanwort and Vallisneria and such. So we do believe the treatment is working. The drawdown is probably not as successful as it has been in the past because we didn't reach the target level. We hope to continue with the use of Captain and Natique for control of wild celery, and we hope to expand the use of Clipper this year. Dominic from Solitude will be out there or his biologist will be out at the lake sometime this month, hopefully, to do the pre-treatment survey, and he will be reporting back to both the town of Shirley and the town of Lunenburg on his pre-treatment suggestions for this coming summer. Next slide. So that's all I have. I'll entertain any questions you might have. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the commission.
Thank you, Wendy. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. Jack Rabbit.
Yeah, I just want to say good progress, folks. You're Wendy and Joanna, you guys are doing good. Look at where we were. Look at how far you've come. It's wonderful. Good job. Good job. Thumbs up.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
why not? You guys done great.
Thank you, Jack. Rich Birch.
I just had a quick question for Wendy. If she had any comment or idea why there was such a tremendous spike in the Christo whatever algae.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love to say I have. The only thing I could say is it was a really odd year in terms of weather. I saw lakes that bloomed that hadn't bloomed for 20 years, and I saw lakes that bloom consistently and didn't bloom at all. So whatever happened with this drought, I think it really changed the dynamics in multiple lakes, not just here. And the best I can say is because we have that long-term data set, that because this past year was an oddball year, that I would have to chalk it up to weather. It will be interesting to see what this year holds for us. The one thing that I guess alarms me more, not just for Lake Shirley, but just in general, I think as we see climate change, come upon us with warmer, drier summers and aggressive rainfall events, I think lakes are going to start changing, and it's going to be very hard to continue to predict conditions.
And the only question I had is, what was the dates on those? Like, they're a little blurry on my sheet.
Yeah. If you give me a minute, I'll pull up the report.
Sure.
While I do this, if someone has another question, I can hopefully multitask here.
Just a quick comment, Wendy, on the 319 grant.
Yes.
I had heard through the grapevine that they're going to be, or they're trying to get the federal authorities to agree to stress less on the NPDES issue. for the MS4s and concentrate more on lakes with TMDLs and anything below anything the category 3 to 5.
Mm.
I'm sure the two of you understood what he just said, but I have no clue.
Bob, what I was basically saying was part of the conditions on the 319 grant is that they want to treat lakes that aren't currently in communities that are regulated by federal stormwater guidelines, stormwater standards, which Lunenburg is. But what they're finding is that there are a lot of lakes that are stressed out, and the stress categories go from a category 1, which is excellent, to a category 5, which is horrible. They're looking to go to lakes that have what they call TMDLs, which means they have certain limiting nutrients like phosphate, nitrate, for example, that are shown to be heavily impacting the water body. And they're also looking at lakes that are from a category 3 to 5. For whatever reason, they're a category 3 to 5 towards these 319 grants. So they're looking to try to get around the MPDES requirement because they find it's not very helpful as far as their criteria and lakes that may need assistance.
Thank you, Matt. Were you able to find what you're looking for, Wendy?
Yes, I did, August 28th.
Thank you.
Anything else, Richard?
Nope, that's it for now.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Then I'd like to thank you both for this presentation tonight. And, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
See
for
you
your
soon.
time.
All righty. Good night. On to our first public hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaw, a public hearing on a request for determination by Timothy Boschman for work at 239 Prospect Street will be held. Work proposes installation of a gate and an existing chain link fence and a dock along Lake Whalen. Is someone here for that application?
Yes, this is Tim Boschman.
Aha.
Great job on the name, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Tim. Do you have something on file here that I can call up?
Well, I did submit
239.
plans.
Ah, here we go. 237 Prospect Plan. Is that what I'm supposed to call up here, Matt?
Yes,
Yes.
All right.
yes, we're looking at along Prospect Street, parcel 2C. You can see that it'll be the lower left parcel 2C in the plan. It's about 90 feet long along the lake.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm gonna
Okay.
share my screen here.
Okay. There you go. So towards the left side is parcel 2C.
Yeah.
The bottom left of parcel 2C, you'll see the dock coming out. It's 4 feet wide, 40 feet long. I'm proposing a 4-foot wide access to it and a gate. Gate will probably end up like 6 feet, so it's wide enough to get in through there with the dock. So the dock would have wheels at the far out end, so it can be pulled out during the winter, if need be.
Yeah, this will be like the third one of these we've been asked to approve.
Yes, yes. I actually did one to the right on parcel C1, which went with the house across the street, 238 Prospect Street. So it's pretty simple. I'm not asking for any earthwork, any digging of any kind. I just want to put the gate in. The most I expect to do is trim some branches to get access. There's an opening through the trees to get out there. And I'll just roll that dock out there, and that's it.
And what will happen with the dock in the wintertime?
Well, typically we'll just roll it out. It can break apart in 16-foot increments. So I'll just take it if I need to. If I don't have room for the whole thing, ideally I just pull it straight out and leave it sitting there.
Okay. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Jack.
thank you. I'm just a little confused, not a big deal. I'm reading it's 239 Prospect on our agenda. And I'm looking at, did I hear 237?
Okay, I can clear that up.
Thank
Parcels C1 and C2 combined were listed as 237. And I split it in half. I gave parcel C1 went with the parcel across the street, 238. And the assessors renumbered parcel C2 as 239. So C1 is 237, C2 is 239. And when I initially submitted my application, I called it 237, because I didn't realize they had renamed it. So I modified the plan and resubmitted it to Matt.
And the plan's calling for 239.
It's 239, which
Okay,
is parcel C2 on this.
right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else, Jack?
Just that, are there any regulations with regard to how far out you can put a dock from the water's edge on a great pond?
That would actually be up to the Chapter 91 program. It's a separate and distinct permit. So he would have to apply to the Chapter 91 Waterways program for that. And they make the decision on the length on the dock.
Okay, so we're just approving the location, not the length.
Yeah, we're not necessarily approving the length. I mean, it should be considered under the RDA, but if it modifies, it would only be shortened. So, I mean, you can take it from that vein.
The
Again,
ones approved on the abutting parcels were also 40 feet. But
Okay.
at parcel C1, for instance, I had approval from the commission for 40 foot and actually built a 16 foot. That's all they have. Over here at C1, I asked for 40 only because it's so shallow. It's only about 18 inches deep out there. So you got to get out a little further to get a boat on this.
Yeah.
Very shallow at this end.
Okay, yeah, my concern was only with the Great Pond requirements. That's fine. I'm satisfied.
Thank you, Jack. Rich Birch.
I had a couple quick questions, Tim. So parcel C1 goes with the lot across the street, 238.
Yes,
What lot does parcel C2 go with?
it's independent all by itself.
Okay, so this is not associated with any of the houses across the street.
No, it isn't.
All right, do you have a parking easement or who's gonna be using this lot?
Well, there's a very wide area along the side of the road, which I intend to use as parking that is actually pretty convenient. You can see where the edge of pavement is. It's probably 20 feet to the fence. So all I have to do is pull up alongside there and go in.
Okay, so who's gonna, who has ownership and is gonna use the lot if it's not any of the houses that are in the neighborhood?
It's my personal lot.
Okay,
It's for my use.
all right, next question is, we have a pathway 4 feet wide. I didn't happen to see any description on what the pathway was gonna be constructed out of. Is it just gonna be leaf litter and a walkway? Is it brick? What are we looking to put in there?
I wasn't proposing to do anything other than just walk on the natural ground.
Okay,
It's open and there was no need to excavate or put gravel or do anything. Just leave it as is. Like I said, I might have to trim a couple of branches that might be in the way. That's
mhm.
about it.
So no tree removal, no bush removal, you're just gonna walk on the natural ground.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Are there any comments or questions from members of the public?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would actually like to go back to where this is not attributed to any of the lots across the street that we're gonna have cars parked here. As somebody that lives in this part of town, that is a heavily used road that has very short sight lines. I would think that perhaps we may want to consult with the police department or the highway department on parking in this area. I know I've been driving by it, and with them building the house and putting the water lines in for, I don't think it's Como, I think it's the next lot. It has made it a pretty dangerous situation down there, so.
If I can
would
comment,
recommend trying to get some input prior to that.
Go ahead,
If I,
Ken.
okay, if you go past Como, there's Hollis Road. There is a curve there, and that's kind of a blind corner. I'm a long ways from that. If you can look at this map, you can see how straight it is. I have very long sight distance, probably 1,000 feet in each direction. We don't have a, well, I'm gonna say maybe 300 feet in each direction before you have a curve. We don't really have any sight distance issues in this particular location. I'm right in the middle of a straightaway.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
is that part of the safety zone? Isn't Prospect Street have some safety zone signs up?
I believe this, I know that the safety zone, is around the swim beach. I don't know how far down it goes.
Yeah. I just don't know. I know they have an end of the safety zone. And I guess that's, I'm not sure whether it begins or ends when we get to the property.
Ken,
Has the planning board seen this?
Go ahead, Jack, again.
I'm sorry, has the planning, is this gone to planning board at all?
Well, the planning board's approved the subdivision of the land, but I mean, this is a
Yeah.
conservation issue for a dock approval.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm the dock approval. I was talking specifically to Richard's point in the parking, that's all.
Anything else, Jack?
No, that's it, thank you.
Ken Jones.
I guess I don't think that parking issue is our purview. I think that the resource protection is our purview and parking is not. So I don't feel like we need to get anybody else's input before we take a vote.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? I tend to agree with Ken that the parking issue is not within our purview. Is anyone interested in making a motion for a negative determination?
I'd make that motion, Mr. Chairman, that we issue this a negative determination.
I'd second it.
Motion is seconded. Roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Abstain.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. So it passes. Thank you, Mr. Busherman.
Thank you very much.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Daniel Corey for work at 46 Pine Grove Road will be held. Work is proposed is the removal of a partial section of deck and addition to a single-family home. Is someone here to represent the applicant?
Yes, sir, I am Mr. Peace. Ryan Proctor here, Dillis and Roy.
Okay, great. Let me see if I can't find your file.
Great.
It's Pine Grove. Would be there's a presentation plan and there's a NOI site plan. Which would you like?
The presentation plan, please.
All right. And so let's see if we can share that screen. And let's see if we can't make this bigger. And bigger still. This is on Lake, way along.
Yep.
How's that, Ryan?
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right. Tell us about what you're doing here.
Okay, so Mr. Corey is proposing to add a approximately 14 by 14 foot addition shown in red on the plan. And that is to the top left or the northwest corner of his existing dwelling. where the label for the patio is, just below the red box, there is a raised deck as well on the front side of the house. And he's proposing to remove and replace part of that deck with where the foundation and the new addition is going to be going. So part of the deck will be remaining, and then part of it will be replaced with the proposed addition. All building components are going to be outside of the 50-foot no build zone, and they're going to conform fully with zoning setbacks. We are proposing erosion control barrier at the top of the slope, which is that dark dashed line just outside the 50-foot, which is that second yellow line up on top of the hill there. And we do have a material stockpile called out as well, which is to remain outside of the 100-foot buffer zone throughout the construction process. To mitigate any potential impacts for adding the impervious to the roof, we do propose a drip line recharge trench around, which will be essentially a stone apron around the foundation, and that will capture any potential stormwater that falls off the new roof that we're adding. At this point, we don't have a DEP file number, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission members may have.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Please raise your hand. Does any member of the public have any questions or comments? If there are no comments, then I'm looking for a motion to continue until, are you comfortable continuing until the 14th, till the 16th?
That works for me. Yep.
Yep. Unless there's new legislation, that'll be an in-person meeting.
Perfect.
So you say.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a motion to continue until June 16th.
No move.
Second.
All right, motion is seconded. Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you very much, Ryan.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yep. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaw, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Michael Schrank for work at 313 Leominster Road will be held. Work proposed is the construction of a garage within the riverfront. So who do we have? I think I saw Mr. Schrank here.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Let me see if I can't find your file.
Hey, Bob,
Yes, sir.
it's Shank without an R.
Shank, thank you. Let's see.
And Bob, is this an RDA or an NOI?
It's an NOI.
Because it's an RDA application.
Actually, you're correct. I stand corrected. It is an RDA.
So, Matt, I've got survey calculations, book to garage, WPA form request for determination of applicability. I'm gonna open that one.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we got at the bottom. I see no plans in this document. Do we have any plans, Matt?
There should have been a plan in that document. I'll look for it. Just bear with me for 1 minute. Bob, just give me a second. I have a plan here. I'm just going to upload it.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I thought it was there.
that's okay. I did not preview anything today, so.
And I went through the thing like 3 times, so I think I just went blind. All right, Bobby, just give me a second. You're going to see a document come through that says scan survey map by the person who drew the plans. Okay, it's loaded.
Ah, look at that.
Thank you for waiting.
Scan survey map. Is that,
That's it.
that's it? Oh. All right, well, let's reduce that down and then we'll share it. Yeah, we'll reduce it a little more to 75% and then we'll share it. All right, let's share that screen. So tell us, Mr. Schrank, about what's going on here.
Just to remind commissioners, we actually did walk this property
Yep.
with him when we examined the Woodruff portion of the property.
Yep.
I think he might be muted. The
Mike,
applicant.
can you unmute yourself so you can speak about your proposal?
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So I'm seeking out for approval to build a garage on an existing concrete slab. I recently purchased this property and with intentions of building a garage on this existing concrete slab. I've been told that there was a garage there at one time. So I'm just trying to rebuild a garage there.
And I assume that this over here is your home?
Yes, sir.
And what is this other little other
I would
building?
call it a what are those a canning cellar. So it's kind of like a little bunker in the hill,
Okay,
the roof.
and where the driveway, does the driveway go through here?
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought. Because we were over here looking at the the dump site, and then we walked back across your property and through here and back over to where we parked our cars.
That is correct.
All right. Are there any comments or questions from commissioners?
Bob, if I could, just for a second,
Sure, go ahead.
just to remind the commission, part of this was a result of the prior enforcement order that we had addressed due to the utility company cutting a line through there. There was some material in there that Mr. Shank has cleaned up and removed. I've spoken with the utility company. I have a direct connection to them now. And they actually did this for the prior owner of the property. I went out with the plan prior and when we were out there and examined the structures that are on site as noted on the plans, and note that everything there is existing and the structure is now being memorialized on the plan. Wanted to ensure that there was no other work that had taken place on the property that was recent within the riverfront. So the site looks good. And now we have a plan showing all of the major structures on site.
Excellent, but do we have an a DEP number?
If there's no DEP number, it was listed as an RDA. I
Oh,
put it as an
that's-
NOI on the agenda.
Okay. So any other comments? Richard Bursch?
You know, I have it up on Oliver and I'm having a hard time finding the driveway. Where does the driveway come out to?
Goes
It
all
obviously
the way,
doesn't
the driveway
cross.
comes in next to the pump station, Richard.
Okay, so he's got to go all the way around through the field.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah, when you go around the pump station, there's like a veer off to the right and a veer off to the left. And the right is his driveway. The left goes onto the Woodruff property.
okay.
Any other questions, Richard?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you, Jack Rabbit.
I just wanted to confirm when I was out visiting the site, Kristen, it looked like you had pile of equipment parked on top of that slab and was there a little knee wall in the back of that or something? Was there around that slab? But honestly, I have no problems with this at all. And I think it's a good use of space.
I think there's a wood foundation to it coming off the concrete, but I will be building on the inside of it. So the footprint is actually smaller than the concrete slab that's existing there. So those, I will not be reusing those.
That's fine. I had no problems, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jack. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? I'm looking for a negative determination motion.
So moved.
Second,
Motion is seconded. Roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Mr. Shank.
You're all
Thank
set,
you.
Michael.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate your help.
All
You're
right.
welcome, sir.
Have a good night.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request for determination by Eric Martineau for work at 45 Cove Road will be held. Work proposed is the construction of a garage. I think I saw Eric in the meeting earlier. 45 Cove Road. And Eric, are you with us?
I'm here.
All right, good. I'm trying to find your plans. And I'll call up on the screen.
Bob, if you go to the very last page, that plan should be helpful.
Yep. All right, let's share that screen.
Mr. Chairman, even though we refer to Eric as my adopted son, I disowned
boy.
him a long time ago. I wanted nothing to do with him. He was my neighbor.
Jack,
Yeah.
we're not empowered to embarrass the applicant on television.
Yeah, yeah, he always does.
We love you, Eric.
All right, so is this the plan you wanted, Eric?
That's it. Yes.
Tell us about what you want to do here.
So it's kind of small on my screen right now, but where the proposed garage is on the plan, currently there's a large deck there. I'm looking to replace the deck with a garage and storage above it. It's actually the new addition will be further away from the wetlands than the back of the house currently is. And where this is going, it's replacing a driveway. So it's asphalt and concrete underneath the deck right now. So there's not gonna be, we're not disturbing any other grass. As far as the watershed, there's really no increase in watershed.
I would just mention, I did a site visit here and I got out my tape measure and it's more than 50 feet from the edge of the wetlands to the back of the house.
Bob, I also did a measurement out there. I got 74 feet.
Yeah,
At its closest
I
point.
just remember that it was more than 50. That's what I remember, so.
And currently, I already put the silt fence up. So where the shed is to the right side, coming back towards Cove Road, that is installed. I did that right before vacation and I plan on doing the other half.
Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Have you already received your variance?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion for a negative determination.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, motion and seconded, roll call vote. Ken Jones,
aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Bylaw, public hearing on a notice of intent at 326 Chase Road by Steve Fenner for the placement of swimming pool, landscaping, and tree removal within the buffer zone. Is someone here to represent the applicant?
Looks like Mark has his hand up. Mark. Burke.
Ah, Mark, you can unmute yourself, Mark. I haven't got muting on.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Are you gonna
Uh,
recuse yourself?
as my brother is representing the applicant, I will be recusing myself from this hearing.
Thank you, Richard. Matt, I'm looking in the June 2nd folder. I see a 326 Highland. Is that what it's, is that what?
That's Highland.
that's correct. Yeah, 326 Island.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, I made a mistake on the agenda.
That's okay, because I made a mistake when I filed it. I had some of my notes that are 426. It's actually 326.
Mark, do you know which document has the plans attached to it?
I did have a plan on an email. It should be listed as it's listed actually as 426 Highland JPG.
Okay, I got some pictures. Let's see in this document.
Mark, is it the one with 1, 2, 3, and 4 on it and
Yep.
colored?
Yep.
It's that
Yep.
picture, Bob, the aerial photo.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay, let me share that screen. Thank you, Ken, for the help. I need all the help I can get. Everyone see this?
Yeah, so I was called by the applicant for area 4. They wanted to grade that area and put an above ground pool. They don't want to necessarily change the grade, just put in a base for an above ground pool. And then they stated they wanted to take down some trees. I noticed then that, area 1 and 3 were kind of wet, and felt that this was something that we needed to file a notice of intent on. Area 1 is wet mainly in the springtime, and will dry out during the summertime. Area 2 is an area that the previous homeowner filled in, which negates the flow from 1 to 3. So if you've done a site walk from 1 to 3, there's no flow because the area was filled in. And this area 1 floods the neighbor's driveway. So I then walked the area with mosquito control. Their recommendation was to remove area 2 to increase the flow and decrease the mosquito habitat, which they said they could remove the material, but they can't truck it away. So they would work with us, but their schedule's fairly heavy. So my proposal is that the board allows us to remove that area to allow flow to reduce the backup of area 1. And I've also spoken with the DPW director. He's in favor of this. Mass Mosquito Control's in favor of this. The other things the applicant wants to do is remove some trees that are pretty much along the 30-foot line. The majority of the trees are either a hazard or dead or dying. And the majority will not affect the canopy. And then the last bit was area 4 to install a pad for an above ground pool.
So let me see if I have this straight. Area 2 was filled in by a previous owner. And
Correct.
It's blocking the flow of water from area 1 to area 3.
Correct.
And so mosquito control who is exempt from wetlands. It's my understanding, and I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, is proposing to come in there and remove the material or move the material to take and promote flow. And it also, as a side benefit, it will take and it will reduce flooding of the neighbor's driveway. But we're not quite sure what's going to happen with the material. And they're also proposing to take down some trees that may be within the 30-foot no disturb zone. And you're also proposing to put a pool, and it looks like the pool is partially within the 30-foot no disturbance zone and partially and entirely within the 50-foot no structure zone. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
And Matthew, have you visited this site, and are these wetlands?
Okay, so yeah, I did visit the site. Area 1 at its current status could qualify as an isolated wetland. Its status is a little bit dubious the way it is now. What it looks like is that years and years ago, somebody filled between area 1 and area 3, establishing area 2 to make a pathway crossing. So by removing area 2, essentially what you're doing is you're reestablishing the former hydraulic connection between those two wetland systems and making it one again. It would restore the flow and lessen the impact to the roadway. That roadway during the high waters in the spring, the side of the roadway is actually partially compromised as a result. There's nothing imminent yet, but if it's allowed to continue, it's going to result in problems in the future. And rather than turn around and make changes in the roadway and the drainage, it would actually, I think it's a better idea to pull out area 2 and reestablish that as a wetland.
And Matt, is area 3 a wetland?
Yes, without a doubt.
Seeing as it seems to me like it's kind of critical. Do we have the wetlands been delineated? It seems to me that it's kind of critical what the 30-foot where the edges of the wetlands are, because where they plan to put the pool is kind of like on the boundary there. And it sounds to me like they plan to cut trees right along the edge. And if it is or is not within 30 feet of the wetlands, you know, makes a big difference to what's going to happen here, I would think.
Well, the wetlands that Mark has on the plans is actually a fairly accurate representation. However, I do note that we don't have a DEP number yet, so we'd have to continue it.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be the 12th, I believe, is our next site walk date. We may want to continue it and go to examine the area, especially where the trees are going to be removed on the 12th. The area number 4 is like right on the edge of the 30-foot zone. It's for a round above ground pool in an area that's basically impervious now, or at least semi-impervious. There were, I believe, Mark, if I remember correctly, there were existing structures on the site.
Yeah.
And I think if the commission walked it, it would be pretty evident. I think this is one of those areas that even with a plan drawn, I think you guys really need to see it to envision it.
Let's hear what Ken Jones has to say.
I just had a question for Mark. It looks like, on this plan, it looks like, it would be logical to say that the existing pool that's on this drawing is on the property, but then you look at the overhead of the assessor's map and it's obviously not on their property. Is that what happened here?
Well, the existing pool is a temporary,
Okay.
that's on this photo.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones you would take up and take down at the end of the season.
Okay.
And it is directly over their leach field.
Okay.
So
And it looks like it's, looking at the plan, it looks like it's not even on their property.
That could be possible, but I believe that's their leach field area, and that's what they
Okay.
didn't want to do was put a structure, a more permanent structure on top of their leach field.
Okay, no, because I was saying, an alternative location, but maybe that's the reason why it's not an alternative would be instead of to the right of that little car parking area would be directly to the left of that in that little opening, but if that's a leach area, then that wouldn't be possible.
Right, it's a leach area, and the elevation change in that area is too much.
Okay. All right. But no, I agree with Matt. I think, considering the fact that we have to continue it anyway, a site visit would be prudent.
Plus, it would be good to to fix the agenda so it has the right address.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But do we have anything else that we want to ask of Mark, that would be helpful to the applicant, between now and, when we come back on the 16th?
I think, it would be, if we're going to go out for a site walk, maybe he can throw a few stakes, at the 30-foot line where it is on this plan. And then maybe, a stake at where the center of the pool is going to be, so we can identify that.
And flag the trees, put ribbons around the trees. So we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah,
so
all
we
the
can-
trees are already flagged.
Okay, so we can see, where the trees are relative to the 30-foot line in the field.
Yep.
All right, I think we have a plan.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman,
Jack Rabbit.
just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Realistically, would we approve a pool within 50 feet? It is a structure.
That depends how the vote goes as far
Oh,
as,
yeah. And generally, we'd be asking for a waiver in that. And that pool, is that actually gonna go into the 30-foot section? We won't know that without the staking out, but
yeah. I would.
I believe-
I would urge you, Mark, if there's a way to do this without it being within the 30-foot no disturb,
yeah. And then Mark, if you could mark the leach field, perhaps that would be helpful for us. Is that a
Yeah.
trampoline, that circle out
It
there?
could be, that could have been a trampoline. I mean, it kind of looks
Yeah.
like it might have been a pool, but it could have been a trampoline.
Yeah,
That area directly behind the house is pretty much the leach field.
the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things I would note, and one of the things that we've done in the past, and I think we're actually going to address some of this later as far as waivers go. When we've asked for, when applicants have asked for a waiver, we've usually looked for some type of a benefit to the wetland or a public benefit. I think in this case, the applicant is clearly demonstrating that the biggest benefit here is restoring that wetland hydrology to its former self. By taking out area 2 and reestablishing the connections between area 1 and 3. I think when you guys see it on the sidewalk, it'll make all the difference.
Okay.
You may not even recognize area 1 as wet because at that point, I mean, it's really drying out fast.
Jack, do you have further questions or
No,
comments?
no, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any questions or comments from the public? I'm looking for a motion to continue until June 16th.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Again,
All right, motion and seconded. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. So we're gonna put it on the agenda with the right address, and we're gonna get out there for a site visit. And you're gonna do all those markings and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna mark the 30-foot. I'll mark where the pool is gonna, the center of the pool, prior to your site visit.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by the Town of Lunenburg for a replacement of a bridge at Flat Hill Road adjacent to 878 Flat Hill Road. Note 878 Flat Hill Road is a private residence used for reference purposes only. First of all, let's stop this screen share nonsense. Let's find the right folder. Flat Hill Road. Which of these plans do I want, Matt? Which of these, the NOI stamped? The
You
Flat
would
Hill Road?
want try Flat Hill Road compiled.
Okay,
Oh, wait a minute, wrong one.
This is Emily Martin with VHB. I
NOI
think
stamped.
the
You're right.
plans
NOI
are
stamped.
separate. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be NOI stamped, Bob.
NOI stamped?
Yep.
Okay,
I can try to share my screen.
sure, if it'll let you, that'd be great.
Oh, no, it does. I get that message that she was getting before.
You do, because it's funny, because I've got screen share
The option
on it
pops
in-
up,
in
but
the
then
security.
the error
Let's
comes up.
see. If I click on you. No, I do not get so I'll do it.
Okay.
Never mind.
That's fine. If you can go to sheet 4,
I can do that.
There's a nice general plan view. And while you do that, I'll just introduce, we're myself, Emily Martin, and Dave Cloutier are with VHB. We are representing the town for this bridge replacement project. I'm the structural engineer, Emily is our environmental scientist, and Dave is our water resources engineer. Also with us would be Rob Oliva with the DPW. So we've been working with Rob to replace this existing culvert at Flat Hill Road. The existing culvert is pretty severely deteriorated. It is a steel corrugated pipe about 14 feet in diameter. The embankments and approaches are made of granite slabs and boulders, and there's quite a bit of erosion and the southwest corner.
Is this the one that's partially closed, that right where it runs into Lake Shirley?
There's a cones blocking off the south side of the road.
Yep, okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
that's where the erosion is occurring right now because of the deterioration in the steel pipe. So what we're proposing to do is while the lake is drained and there's a low water level, to have a contractor come in, demo the existing bridge, excavate out the approaches, and put in a precast concrete box culvert along with concrete wing walls that follow along the edge of the road. The footprint of the bridge would be roughly the same. The opening's a little wider than the existing that you can see in the outline of the box versus the shaded area. And the wing walls would be new. What's there right now is stacked granite slabs. So we'll put in wing walls to retain the soil. Let's see, any other things to note? We're putting in guardrail along the edge of the road. We would be clearing a bit of vegetation at the northwest side. We are protecting some trees in the area. And there would possibly be, as you can see here, some utility relocation that the town is still considering to happen before the replacement of the bridge. Emily, any things you want to note about the environment in the area?
Sure, yeah. So the resources we have here are associated with Lake Shirley. We have bank and then the land underwater bodies and BLSF. And there were no bordering vegetated wetlands in the area. There will be some small permanent impacts to bank, 28 feet and 25 feet to land underwater, just due to replacing the wing walls and the bridge. We'll actually be increasing the flood storage by 24.3 cubic feet. And yeah, Olivia mentioned that this will be happening during the winter when the lake is drained, but we'll also possibly be using a dewatering system with sandbags and a cofferdam and diverting the water that is there.
Correct. Yeah, our project does call for the contractor to have a pump at the lowest point within the construction zone to block off the area with sandbags or other means, and to pump out any groundwater into a sedimentation basin that then trickles back into the water. And so we've included that in our plans as our recommended control of water, but the contractor will be submitting what their means and methods of water control would be during the project.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Doesn't the Connectivity Brook flow through that culvert?
It's north. So it's the lake to the south and Connectivity Brook to the north.
Yeah, and to the north is actually just a ponded area of Lake Shirley, according to the USGS figure.
So the brook does not flow through that?
Correct.
And that all makes sense if the brook doesn't really flow. I had always assumed that that's where the brook flowed into Lake Shirley, but I guess I just learned something. Thank you. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Last I saw, we do not have a DEP number.
Rich Birch.
I had a quick question. I noticed the base of the existing culvert is at 293. And it looks like the channels on the north and south are in that range, 292, 293, but the new culvert you have listed as 289. Are you going to be putting soil in there and trying to make a live brook base through the new culvert, or what's the reason for the sudden drop in culvert depth?
So
I can speak to that, Olivia, that's all right. So Dave Cloutier, VHB, hydraulic engineer. So the intention there is that the actual structure of the concrete box culvert would be down at that elevation. And we did in fact slightly extend the curtain wall below to go down below predicted scour elevations to avoid any potential undermining or damage from high flow, flood flow environments. But the intention is to have just a little under 2 feet of a sand gravel mixture to simulate a natural bed through the culvert.
Okay.
Anything else, Richard?
No, that's it for now.
Thank you, Ken Jones.
I don't mean to be argumentative with the engineers, but that's absolutely the Connectivity Brook where that comes into the lake. I mean, if you look at the USGS above that stream, I mean, above that ponded area, it's certainly the Connectivity Brook that flows through there, and it is listed on the USGS map.
You know, which then if that's correct, I don't see how you can de-water it, you know, during construction. You know, if the brooks, you know, unless you're gonna hold the whole brook back somehow or other, or pump the entire brook, you know, over the road.
So, Emily, do you want to talk more about where it kind of transitions from brook to lake? But in this area, when the lake is drained, it is noticeably low and there's no real flowing water coming through the culvert, as we saw during October and November when the lake was drained. So I don't foresee much flow to be pumping. We'll call for the contractor to have means and methods to divert any water during the time if needed. We always will call for them to have a pipe on site. But right now, I believe they would just be pumping out groundwater, because the water is very low in that area. A couple of docks north of there, pretty wide, still resembles a lake in my opinion, and then kind of transitions over to the brook north of that. Emily, since I mean,
Yeah, no, I would
you
agree.
flagged this area, you'd know more.
We flagged it when the lake wasn't drained, and I mean, we didn't even for this project need to get up as far as to where it would transition into something that I would say resembles the bank of the brook. Where we were, it was very ponded and no water was noticeably flowing.
And I can contribute to that. Although at this point, we really are in Lake Shirley, there still is flow from Catacoonamug Brook making its way from the north to the south. However, during the intended construction season, that traditional dry weather period, flows are certainly low. And when we have been out in the field, we've noted that unless you're getting into a large rainfall event, a storm event, it's something that should be able to be pumped.
Any other comments or questions from Commissioner Richard Bursch? And then when I finish the commissioners, I'm going to go to our member of our public. But first, let's go back to Rich and then Jack Rabbit.
Do we have a schedule of construction as far as how many days and what's going to be happening on each day? Because the drawdown can be quite variable.
We'd be happy to require one for the contractor to submit, and we can have it for the Conservation Commission to review.
Yeah, honestly, I myself would like to take a look at one just to see how long the process is going to take to remove and reset the bridge. Because like I say, that can be quite a variable area of flow depending on rain and weather events. Just because they intend to draw down the lake doesn't mean the lake wants to be drawn down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be one thing that myself I would like to require as part of the approval process before us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you.
If
Thank you,
if I may expand on that a little further, to VHB, you guys might want to check with the dam keepers and the Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation. The reason why I say that is expounding on Commissioner Bursch's concerns is that there are limitations with the dam structure and the spillway structure and how far we can lower that gate. Under the current order of conditions with the Shirley Conservation Commission, which is where the outflow goes to, it's kind of like we're tag teaming on different orders here.
Mm-hmm.
They're required to keep a certain amount of flow. And as a result of keeping a certain amount of flow, this could cause the conditions that Commissioner Bursch is talking about.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll clearly arrange for the contractor to have sandbags stacked high enough to account for the amount of flow to anticipate. And like I said, have a drain pipe on site and pumping.
Well, sure, I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm just saying the dynamics of how they have to do the dam drawdown and the flow maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you get for precipitation, et cetera, to Commissioner Bursch's point, could affect the construction technique, the times, et cetera. So it's
Okay.
just something to consider.
Absolutely. We will coordinate with the dam keeper. Skip or I forget what his name is, but we'll coordinate accordingly.
I'm gonna call on Joanna. Malata.
Thank you. Hi, I'm the president of Lake Shirley. I was going to, what Mr. Jones said is absolutely correct. And I know you're here going through Lunenburg Conservation, which is great, but Lake Shirley also is in the town of Shirley. So if you're going to do any type of dam work or water flow that would impact going outstream where the North Basin is, you would need to go to the Shirley Conservation as well. And you can look at, I don't know if you have access to Wendy Gendron just did a report at the beginning of this meeting. And she shows you that in October and November, we were in an excellent drawdown. We were down at our 6 feet. Everything was going wonderfully. And we were looking to get approval to extend because DEP says you have to close your dam by December 1st. We were looking to extend it to December 31st. And we went back and forth and that ended up not happening. And the second week of December, our lake was full. And you could see the drawdown numbers from October, November, and then December. So you might just want to look at that report that was shared at the beginning because she tracked that. Oh, no, she didn't because it starts October. So I can try to get you those figures from our dam keepers, which is Ron Wilson. And they track that. And we could get you those numbers because Wendy's was October because we went from October 1st to October 1st with the new order of conditions. I apologize. So we can get that information for you.
Okay, that would be great. So, so would coordination be required with the Shirley Conservation Commission if we're just at the North Bank where Catacunamon Brook kind of transitions into Lake Shirley? Is that?
The only time I would coordinate with, sure, you're not doing any work on the dam face, so you're not working within their corporate boundary. However, going to Ms. Bellata's point, if anything that you guys do with coordination results in a temporary condition where the flows that they require to be maintained cannot be maintained, you should coordinate that with them. And I mean, I work with the chairman quite often directly because she works for DCR. So I can help you guys coordinate with the chair to see what would need to be done, as well as Mike Fleming, the agent. Mike works only 19 hours a week. So, you know, I usually hop between the two when I can. So, I mean, I can help you out with that.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, my comment is, you know, if you intend to de-water the site, you know, when you're putting in the box culvert, that means you're essentially damming up the Catacunamon Brook. And so it'll start to rise, you know, and there's houses all along the bank of it there. And so you're going to have to be prepared, in my, you know, layman's opinion, to pump the entire flow of the Catacunamon Brook, you know, around the site, you know, whatever that flow is at that time, even though it's not technically a brook there. I know, like if you threw the orange and, you know, it wouldn't move kind of thing. But still the flow is coming in to that part of the lake and it's got to go somewhere. And you can't really just dam it up, you know, and have it start, you know, flooding those homes up there. You got to be prepared to pump the entire flow of the Catacunamon Brook. And if we get a big thunderstorm, you know, or any kind of big rain event, you know, that could be considerable.
And we have it in our technical specifications that if any major rain fall is anticipated, that the contractor has to make arrangements. This is when we would use the pipe that they have to have on site to allow the water flow through during the rain event.
Thank you. Any other comments? Joanna, did you have more?
I did not, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to lower your hand. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Do I understand we do not have a DEP number yet?
That's correct.
Is there anything we need them to do between now and, you know, if we're going to continue to June 16th?
Well, my take on it is that they may want to use a couple of weeks to maybe coordinate with Joanna and get those flow numbers and maybe
Yep.
work to address some of these concerns on the variability issue.
Yep.
As far as the construction coordination goes, if an order of conditions was granted with the Shirley Concom, and that's something that the office can help them out with.
And, you know, I say to all applicants for NOIs, sometimes it can expedite the issuance of a DEP number if you take and get a copy of your canceled check and send it to the person who does the reviews.
It's a town project. They were fee exempt.
Oh,
So I don't know if you guys are doing this now, but what I would recommend, and I've heard a few of my friends and your colleagues from the engineering community basically say that they would email the CRO mailbox and say, hey, guys, how are we doing on that DEP number?
Gotcha.
Richard
Now, I know
Burke.
Central is backed up right now. As you guys probably know, they've had a transition in personnel.
Mm.
So
I'm gonna
Yeah,
call
and
on
I-
Richard Bursch.
And I would still like to see a proposed schedule per day of what's gonna happen on the site from start to finish.
Thank you for reminding us, Richard. I forgot about that.
Thank you.
Anything else, other comments from commissioners or from Joanna? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to continue until June 16th.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano. Jeff Viviano is muted.
Sorry. Aye.
Aye, and I for myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, continued public hearings pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended. In the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaw, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Kevin Hill for work at 41 Country Road will be held. Work proposes the construction of a single-family home, driveway and septic grading within the buffer zone. And it's my understanding that I'm looking for a motion to continue at the request of the applicant.
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Bursch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on 7 individual notices of intent for at 150 Holman Street, lots 1 through 7 by PSG Realty will be held. Notices of intent individually filed for each lot. Work proposes the construction of a 7-lot subdivision within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. I thought I saw Mr. Marchetti come in before.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, there you are.
All right, so at our last hearing, the commission wanted to wait until they heard or we received technical comments from Graves Engineering, who's reviewing the stormwater permit for planning board. So on the 24th, we did receive comments from Jeff Walsh. There were 11 total comments. Of the 11, there were only 3 that required any modifications to the plan. They were very minor in nature. The majority of them were acknowledging that we met the requirements of the DEP stormwater management standards and the town's bylaws. So I provided to Mr. Marrow today a letter detailing what changes were done to the plans. And we could briefly show you those. Like I said, there were only 3, so they're very minor.
I recall, Brian, at the last meeting, we asked that you take and speak with the owner about delineating the wetland, the edges of the 30-foot no disturbance. Did that happen? And how
Yes,
you would
so-
do that?
Yep, so the way I structured the letter was there were 2 comments from the Conservation Commission that required plan changes, and then 3 comments from Graves. So All of those were incorporated. So what I did for the conservation, you requested on a couple lots that we move the erosion control line behind the proposed well. So we
Yep.
modified that. Every lot now shows the erosion control line behind the proposed wells. And then on each lot, we showed a note delineating the demarcating the 50-foot buffer. We chose the 50-foot because on most lots there's work within the 100. So if you'd allow me to share the screen, I could show you what was put on the plan. There's a note referencing the 50-foot marker or demarcation zone. And on the edge of the page, there's a planting legend with notes detailing.
Brian, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, it's detailing the, let's see here. So, so these are the plans. So I'll reference lot 1 here first. We added a note right here that says proposed buffer zone demarcation along 50-foot no structure line. See buffer zone demarcation notes for details. So if you look over here on the side of the page, there is a note, and this is on every one of these pages. It says the 50-foot no structure zone shall be marked in accordance with the following criteria, or areas within undisturbed tree lines. So existing trees shall be tagged with permanent markers at 30-foot intervals. Tags shall be approved by the conservation agent prior to placement. And then areas within approved landscaping or open fields, because several of these lots are within the open fields that are out there. It says the buffer zone shall be demarcated at 30-foot intervals with trees or shrubs as detailed below. Shrubs, any combination of the following native shrubs shall be planted in massings of 3 to 5 shrubs at 30-foot intervals. Shrubs shall be 1.5 to 3 feet in height. Species shall be arrowwood, witch hazel, mountain laurel, winterberry, gray dogwood, or red twig dogwood. And then trees, any combination of the following native trees shall be planted at 30-foot intervals. They shall be 4 to 6 feet in height. Species shall be red maple, gray birch, sweet birch, white oak, or northern red oak. These species were all selected by our landscape architect who reviewed the wetland delineation and the native species on these properties. So they're all native to what's out there now. So those notes and that legend has been placed on every one of these plans in the set. Like I said, if you reference this lot, this is the 30-foot, the 50-foot, excuse me, the 50-foot buffer zone. Clearly the 100-foot goes through grading in the house, so we're proposing on every lot to mark out the 50-foot. And then again, you see the well here, so the erosion control line has been removed behind the well on every one of the lots.
And how about the Graves?
So Graves Engineering, their comments.
Before you do move on, Brian, let's see what Jack Rabbit has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. With regard to the 50-foot designation, will we be recording that in the deed and that there is to be no disturbance within those 50 feet?
I don't think there should be any deed restriction. Deed restrictions are permanent. You know, there's nothing that says these land homeowners can't come back in the future and permit another notice of intent for something on that lot. You know, the plan shows this will be demarcated along the 50-foot. So as part of this approval, the developer will plant along the 50-foot according to these
So
notes.
you're saying that the people who buy that property then can just basically pull up those trees and such and do what they want, right?
Your bylaws allow work within these buffer zones. So, I mean, they would have to come back to you.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing that says any homeowner in Lunenburg, you know.
Can we put that in there that any work to be done would require conservation review and approval inside that deed?
We could certainly put it in our order of conditions.
Sure. Yeah, the only reason why we've had a similar incident on Reservoir Road, and that a lot of the folks who were buying the properties were basically unaware of those restrictions. And I would think we would try and avoid a repeat of that. And so therefore making that clear would probably be a good thing for the future.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't call it a deed restriction. I mean, a deed restriction kind of denotes that no work can ever be done there. I guess I'm just saying, I'd just be careful about what we call it. You know, I mean, this is on the developer, and this should be in the order of conditions, absolutely. Because that order of conditions is transferred to the homeowner.
Then
Anything else, Jack?
Bob, how did we miss last time then? What happened that these landowners didn't know?
I wasn't on the commission when you did the subdivision. Was there to be demarcation when you did the subdivision on Reservoir Road?
Some of the properties were.
If you're referring to the A&R lots on Reservoir Road, two lots specified a demarcation. Those are the final two lots, 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think with the sale of the land, the orders of conditions are transferred to the new owners, but I just think they didn't read it and they weren't educated.
Okay. So as long as we've got it in the order of conditions, I guess we're covered. Okay.
I mean, if it's a condition, it's entirely up to, inspections and enforcement.
Okay.
Anything else, Jack?
No, thank you very much.
Rich Birch.
I did have a quick comment on the rain gardens, and I had asked Matt about this. Where the rain gardens are technically stormwater structures and do have an O&M plan, can we have a separate call out on the deed for the maintenance of those rainwater gardens?
You could do that in the order of conditions as a permanent condition. The permanent condition would be outlined on the certificate of compliance as a perpetual condition.
Can we add it separately, just so it doesn't get passed off when we sign off on the order of conditions? Because I've gone back through and read a bunch of the certificate of compliance on an order of conditions, and they just kind of all fall by the wayside. Where this is a specific structure with a specific maintenance plan.
Well, we can add
that it doesn't get fallen through the wayside, because it doesn't take much for the rain garden to disappear. I did watch the meeting from last 2 weeks, and it does sound like the design of the rain garden is such that maintenance can be done and they can be dug out if they do get inundated. But if the homeowner is not aware of that, or it's not fairly pronounced on their deed at the time of purchase, it's something that may fall by the wayside. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Well, let's go then to the Graves comments, and then we'll go through the lots one by one. But let's go to the Graves comments next.
So, like I said, there were 11 comments, but of the 11, 4 of them requested changes to the plan. The remaining comments were, they just referenced the drainage model, questions about how things are modeled. So that we've reviewed. I've gone over it all with Jeff Walsh. He's been satisfied with everything. These are the 3 comments that required plan changes that I can show you. So comment number 4 is very simple. It would be helpful if topographic contour labels were increased in size and if more labels were added. So we just added more labels to the topography throughout the site. Number 9, earth fill and grading associated with the proposed soil absorption systems on lot 5 and 6 will prevent stormwater runoff originating on abutting properties from flowing onto lots 5 and 6. So it did happen. The grading on those 2 lots ended up impounding or blocking some of the drainage flow off of the abutting properties. So on those 2 properties in particular, we shifted the grading around to allow the free flow of stormwater across the lot. And then the final comment was regarding the detail of the dry well. The detail needs to include footprint dimensions, height, and the material of construction. So we modified the detail just to specify those few items. So like I said, the comments are very minor in nature. I can show you specifically. So this was the dry well that's on every plan. All we did was add pipe types, material size, specified the Marafi fabric. So, and then you want to know the size. They're all designed at 8 foot by 8 foot square, 4 feet deep. So that satisfied his comment. And then the grading that was changed was specific to lots 5 and 6. So on lot 5 here, stormwater flow, this is a high point here. So it flowed onto the site, but our 534 or 5 contour was 4 feet closer to the property line. And basically this one little contour here impounded about a foot of water. So what we've done is just, we shifted our grading to the south slightly, and we added a 534 swale in here. So any stormwater that flows onto the site is going to flow out and around in both directions. So that satisfied his concern for lot 5. And then on lot 6, it was a very similar situation. Here in the, oh, excuse me. So right here in this corner, our retaining wall was closer to the property line before. So the natural flow here comes right through here. You can see how these contours are swaled. So the natural flow of stormwater comes through here. So where the retaining wall was up against, it channeled it right up tight to the property line. So we've moved this retaining wall 17 feet from the property line. So it gives us at least 17 feet now of area where the stormwater will continue to flow. So those are the changes. It didn't shift the house. It didn't shift the impact of the buffer zone. Everything else stayed the same. It was just modifying the grading in the front yard around the septic system.
Anything else, Brian?
That's it.
Then Jack Rabbit.
Thank you. Just quick, through you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, didn't you suggest mounding around the wellheads?
You talking to Jeff Viviano?
Yes.
No, I just suggested they put the silt fencing around the wellheads, which they changed.
The wellheads.
Yeah. The silt fence is stopped on some of the lots upwards to like 40 feet short of the wellheads where they'd be drilled. So I just suggested they move the silt fence barrier to the back side of the wells, which they did on these revisions.
Yeah, I thought you were suggesting mounding around them as well. Okay, never mind. No. Thank you.
Anything else, Jack?
No, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then what I'm proposing then is that there's 7 different NOIs here that we asked Brian to take and present each lot. We have DEP numbers. We have Graves comments. We had 2 things that we asked Brian to do at the last hearing, that we go through them one at a time and consider whether we're ready to approve them tonight. Does anyone have any problem with that? So Brian, why don't you take us through lot 1?
Yep. So the plan you see on the screen right now is lot 1. The only change to this, again, on this lot 1 was the buffer zone note. And I believe if it was this lot, it was the erosion control line, which was moved behind the well.
Are there any comments or questions specific to lot 1? Are there any, Rich Birch?
Yep, yeah, I would just ask for additional perpetual condition that's attached to the deed, including the O&M plan for the rain garden. Other than that, I have no other issues with the site.
Mr. Marchetti, how do you feel about that?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Rich, would you like to make, is there any comments or questions from members of the public on this NOI for lot 1? Jack Rabbit.
No, Mr. Chairman, again, as long as we have the demarcation on all the sites, right, and they're in the deed. order conditions, excuse me. I know last time when we dealt with multiple, we didn't make it explicitly clear for every site. And unless,
And we're gonna do this one at a time tonight, Jack, and.
right, so Brian, you're agreeing to that as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Then, I think then, at this point, I'm looking for a motion to approve, lot one with, the restriction with the, I'm hoping that someone like Richard will make it so they can, put in the, conditions in the order of conditions, the requirements in the order of conditions, that we discussed during the last 10 minutes or so.
So I'd make a motion to approve with the added condition that separate perpetual entry in the deed be made that includes the operations and maintenance plan of the rain garden and a standard order from there.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion, roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Muted.
He can unmute himself. Carl. I've asked Carl on mute. We'll come back to Carl. Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. We'll count Carl as an abstention and we'll go on to lot two.
So lot two here, you see, has the same situation. The well here is well within the erosion control limit. We've added the same buffer zone demarcation notes. And this plan reflects the revised house location that we discussed last week. We moved it closer to Holman Street, which eliminated about 3,000 square foot of pavement.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Jack Rabbit.
Again, Brian, we're gonna put the same comments in the order condition. Well, I have to ask you on every one of these. You don't want me to, do you? You're just gonna do it, right?
Well, Jack, why don't you make the motion? So,
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna move that section.
Jack, we're not done with comments.
Okay, never mind.
But when it comes time, Jack, why don't you make the motion? Then you can be sure it's in there and include what the thing that Richard's looking for too.
Oh, God, I'll let Rich do that one.
No. You can do both.
I didn't write it down.
All right. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? Then I'm looking for a motion to approve with two conditions.
I make a motion to approve lot two with the condition of a separate entry in the deed for the operations and management plan for the rain gardens and the inclusion of the call out for the buffer zone demarcation in the order of conditions.
Do we have a second?
Second. Good job.
All right, roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birsch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Accuse myself.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Okay, let's take us through lot three here, Brian.
So lot three has the same demarcation notes here for the buffer zone. And lot three did relocate the erosion control behind the well.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? I'm looking for a motion to approve with two conditions. Oh, wait, Jack Rabbit.
No, as long as you got the two conditions in there, I'm happy. Okay, thank you. I knew Brian was gonna put them in anyway, but.
No, Jack, you're gonna make a motion with that has them in.
I don't put anything in there.
Well,
You
you
do.
just did. You
It's
just
on my
did,
plan.
Bob, with the two motions.
I agree to the motions.
You agree to the motions.
Jack, are you making a motion or are we gonna have Rich do it again?
Basically, exactly what Rich said last time.
Which was that it would be
Rain garden
noted,
maintenance.
the maintenance plan for the rain garden. Is there a rain garden on this one, Brian?
Yes,
Yeah.
every lot has them. Yep.
Okay, and also there'd be a notation about the buffer zone demarcation.
Right, with no, no work in the disturbance, no disturbance.
No, it's the 50-foot, it's the D-foot. It's the 50.
It's
50
50
foot.
right?
We have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Hughes,
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Aye for myself. Next lot, Brian.
So lot 4, we have the same situation. The buffer zone demarcation notes have been added to the plan. And the erosion control is shown behind the proposed well.
Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Jack Rabbit.
And we will once again add those two elements with regard to the order of conditions. One, the maintenance on the rain gardens, and secondly, the demarcation at the 50-foot mark with a note to say there's no work going on within the 50 feet.
Thank you, Jack. Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Any comments or questions from members of the public? I'm looking for a motion to approve lot 4 with those same two conditions as before.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Hughes,
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Aye for myself. Let's look at lot 5, Brian.
Lot 5, we've added the same buffer zone demarcation notes, and the erosion control line was behind the well on this one. However, we did modify the grading to answer Graves' comments. Everything else is as you've seen it before.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Jack Rabbit.
Again, adding order of conditions that number one, there be maintenance on the rain gardens, and secondly, demarcation would be identified and no activity to occur within 50 feet.
Thank you, Jack. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from members of the public? I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved with the added 2 clauses.
Second.
All right, motion and seconded by Ken. Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck. Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Lot 6.
Lot 6, as we just discussed, the buffer zone demarcation notes have been added to the plan. The erosion control line was extended to be behind the proposed well, and we made the minor modifications to the grading to accommodate the comment from Graves Engineering.
Any comments or questions from members of the commission?
Can I say,
Jack.
can I say ditto?
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the commission?
So ditto is with two T's, right?
Yeah.
That's what we need, humor at 9:12 at night.
We do.
Questions or comments from members of the public? All right, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with the two added caveats to the order of conditions in the deed.
Looking for a second.
Second.
All right, Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck, Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Lot 7, Brian.
Lot 7. Buffer zone demarcation notes have been added to the plan. The erosion control line is shown now behind the proposed well. And the rest of the plan is as you've previously seen it.
Questions or comments from members of the commission? Jack,
Ditto with two T's.
thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Questions or comments from members of the public? Looking for a motion to approve with the two added conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Child,
Aye.
Carl Luck, Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. I think we're done, Brian.
We are. Thank you very much.
All right.
Good job, Brian. Good
All
job.
right. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a request for determination for work on beach raking at 90 Roost Street by Brian Del Maso. We have someone here representing the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, that's the issue on 90 Roost Street that I'm working with the applicant to come up with a plan to address future runoff or prevention of. I'm still working on that with the applicant, so a continuance is requested to the next meeting.
Thank you. And before we do another thing, Carl has his hand up. We're going to hear what he has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me. Yes, I apologize for not logging in so early. It was my understanding, which doesn't seem to be accurate, that my term was up yesterday. So I felt I was no longer a commissioner. So I did no homework, which I'm never comfortable with. So I do not intend to participate tonight in the hearings and would recuse myself from all the hearings, just so you don't have to keep calling me. But I am going to stay online for your last hearing of the night, which I'm a butter on. So thank you for your.
Thank you, Carl. Let's see now. So we need a motion to continue until June 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birsch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaw, a public hearing on a notice of intent by the Town of Lunenburg, Thomas Wu and Scott Benjamin will be held. Work proposed is restoration of a parking area to be to a naturalized state on town property at Fire Road 12.
I'm still waiting for a DEP number.
All right. So let's continue. Is there anything else going that I know we had some discussion about boulders and getting the town attorney involved in writing a letter to go with the order of conditions. Is there anything
Yeah,
else?
that would have to be made as a motion, but we can't do a motion until we get the DEP sign
I
off.
understand. I just wondering if there's anything else we should be thinking about on this, before we continue. Sounds like that's a no. I'm looking for a motion to continue until June 16th.
So moved.
All right. And I heard a second. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Christopher and Susan DeGeorge will be held. Work proposes improvement of access to Lake Shirley and control of erosion within 100 feet of a wetland resource area at 48 Pearl Street. It is my understanding that the applicant has asked for a continuance.
Yeah, the applicant didn't get us the revised changes and plans until very, very late, and they wanted to continue to give the commission time to look the plans over.
So are we continuing until the 16th?
16th.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to continue till the 16th.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and under Lunenburg Protective Bylaw, Chapter 335, the Lunenburg Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on it for a notice of intent by Cynthia Ritchie for work at 137 Flynn Road to build a natural stone wall along the waterfront to protect against future erosion of the edges of the land and beach.
Same thing, Mr. Chairman, waiting for a DEP number and no updated plans yet.
I'm looking for a motion to continue
So moved.
to the date certain of June 16th.
Yes.
And second,
Actually, I did have a second.
go ahead.
I did have a quick question to Matt.
Go ahead.
For 137 Flynn Road, I do see that DEP is questioning their filing.
Yeah, because the plan, they didn't submit an actual plan. They're in the middle of actually, they retained Dillison Roy, and Dillison Roy is coming up with an actual engineered plan.
Okay.
I had discussed that with Kim Roth in an email and pointed out to her that when she receives the filing, that the commission had asked for this plan. So I think she's withholding the DEP number until she sees the plan.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. So,
Have a motion and a second.
thank you, Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and under Lunenburg Protective Bylaw, Chapter 335, the Lunenburg Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for a notice of intent by Empire Management Corp. for work at 757 Chase Road for the demolition and reconstruction of a commercial building with grading and parking. I believe we're going to continue this.
Yeah, they will be here for the next meeting.
June 16th. All right, so looking for a motion to continue.
So move.
Second.
Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. Jack
Thank you.
Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Mass Pleasant LLC will be held. Work proposed is construction of a 6-lot subdivision, roadway, utilities, and a proposed wetland crossing at 101 Pleasant Street.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is in the middle of a redo of the entire plan due to a denial of waivers by the planning board. He notified me this evening, he's still not finished with the plans. So he is requesting a continuance to the June 16th meeting.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to continue
So move.
and a
Second.
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 All right, Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. And I would just note that I sent a motion, a letter on behalf of just myself to the planning board, noting that I hope if the opportunity presents it, they'll provide some access to the town property there, you know, off of that roadway. Because 225 Pleasant Street is town property, and there's only a limited 50-foot access strip, you know, off of the bend in Pleasant Street. And so I just sent, you know, as a citizen, you know, a suggestion that if they have the opportunity, they provide additional access there. Let's see. Under Lunenburg Protective Bylaw, Chapter 335, the Lunenburg Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for a notice of intent by Richard Tremblay for work at 386 Sunset Lane for repairs to 5 existing retaining walls, the construction of a kayak rack, the reinforcement of existing fencing, the removal of a stump, the replacement of 2 existing concrete patios, and removal and replacement of an existing driveway. Ryan Vickers.
Yes, how you doing?
Good.
Alrighty. Yeah, so I'm Ryan Vickers. I'm with Dillis and Royce, substituting for Greg. Typically he's here doing this, but he was unable to attend tonight, so I'm here. Next best thing. So the applicant, Richard Tremblay, has been at a few public hearings. I think this is the 3rd, correct me if I'm wrong, for this project. I know there's been an ongoing issue with the DEP file number. That's been resolved. There's an issue with the fee, and that's totally been resolved. I do want to mention Richard Tremblay, the applicant, is also here. He wanted me to mention that. He's in the audience tonight.
And he's free to unmute himself.
There you go, Rich. All right. So getting back, there he is. Sorry. So we did get the DEP file number. Matt, if that's something that you want me to email to you, or I can just share it now. I don't know, whatever's easiest for everybody.
No, I get copies.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, sorry about that.
No,
so
that's not a problem.
The file number only came with one comment for the proposed work. They said that all the work needs to be done during the dry period and when the lake is drawn down, which is already on the plan. We already have a note on there saying that all of the work needs to be done during a dry period. And after the first public hearing, we received a comment from one of the commission members that we needed to add another note saying that, specifying that all of the work needs to be done when the lake is drawn down, to specify that, to cement that in place. So the DEP's comments have been handled as far as I see. So we resubmitted a plan with some revisions, very minor revisions. I can talk about them if that's easiest, just a quick overview. The applicant has decided that he wants to pull all of the proposed work back onto his property, thus not needing any type of easement from his abutter. So what that entails, in the details on the plans have been revised to reflect what's going to go on at that interface of the existing wall and the property line. Greg and I came up with the idea of, well, historically, that's what they do in these types of situations. They use sheet piles along the property line to secure the earth and stabilize the earth on both sides of the property. So just to be clear, this is going on the applicant's side of the property along his property line. Sheet piles will be installed. The existing wall, the existing retaining walls, lakeside retaining walls, will be cut on the applicant's property. And those existing walls will be tied back onto the applicant's property. And then the new proposed wall will butt up to that existing tie back. So everything is now, yes.
Can you explain for us
It's a long, flat piece of metal, essentially. Typically, if you're constructing, if you need to dewater something, you would install sheet piles, dewater it so the sheet piles push up against the earth to hold everything back so they could do any type of construction. Here, we're not dewatering anything. It's just kind of a substitute rather than, it's just an added measure to the wall being tied back along the property line to secure the earth on both sides of the property. But it's just a long, flat piece of metal, drive it right down. Again, we've proposed this in such a way that, we're proposing no disturbance on the applicant's property, the abutter's property. All of the work is on the applicant's property. Sorry about that. So I don't know, we could look at the details and that might be a little bit better.
Do you have the ability to share your screen, Ryan, or do you want me to call it up?
If you could do it, sorry, I'm still a little unfamiliar with the clicks on Zoom. I'm sure you've had much more
All right,
practice.
so
Much more practice.
let's see, this is 386 Sunset Revised.
Yes. And there's a total of 2 sheets in this plan set, and the details are going to be on the second sheet.
Okay, so. And so I'm assuming from what you said that you want to look at the second sheet.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to accommodate you in just a second.
No worries.
Here we go.
Right on. So yeah, at the bottom of the page there, we have those 3 details. It's the very bottom 3 that are kind of cut off from the view there. Yep. Fantastic. Yes. And these are kind of, these illustrate what our intentions are.
I'm going to make it a little bigger.
Fantastic. Yep. So on the western shoreline return wall inset, the applicant's property is the north side of that line. The abutter is the south side of that line. So the intentions is that shown by that kind of hatched gray bar, that's the sheet pile that will be driven, excavated, driven into right along the property line. Then the existing wall is going to, extend onto the applicant's property where it will then be cut. That 4-foot tieback will be installed onto the existing wall. And then the proposed work, AKA the proposed wall, will come and butt up and be tied back right adjacent to the existing wall tieback there. And it's the same methodology on all 3 locations where this is going to happen, where the existing wall goes from the abutter's property onto the applicant's property. It's the same methodology. Sheet pile, cut the wall, ensure that everything's stabilized, install the tiebacks, get the proposed wall.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Are the sheet piles permanent or is that a temporary?
It would be, the intentions are permanent because it's an added measure to the tiebacks to the walls.
Sure.
It has been used as a temporary measure during construction to retain the earth on both sides of the property before you've tied that wall back. But
right,
our intention is, because it's on the applicant's property, we're just going to leave it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like us to focus on, Ryan?
That is it. So if there's any questions, feel free.
Can you explain to me? I'm not following why we're looking at 3 of these. As far as I know, there's 2 shorelines. But I don't understand why there's 3 of them.
Absolutely. Do you mind switching to the first page?
I do not mind.
So,
let me
no worries.
make this a little smaller so we can see a little more of it.
Yep. So along that southern property line, you can see, I'm looking at F, the cross section of F. And then if you head east, you see H and G. The H is the third one.
One of those is not at the shoreline.
Correct.
One of them is up. I understand now.
Yes. I misspoke and said lake walls, but there is one other one that's not a lake wall.
Correct. Yeah. This one's lake. This one's lake. This one is the big change in grade.
It's like a terrace retaining wall, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yep.
I understand. Any other comments or questions? Jack Rabbit.
Of course, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Ryan, in our last meeting, we talked about that eastern side, and it's the very, very steep. And the question
Yes.
is, how are you going to get those concrete retaining blocks?
Yes.
You pointed out that you're going to try and bring them off the northern side there, and then you're going to transfer them down. It was pointed out to us that actually this is a pretty steep slope that continues on down.
Yes.
Probably drops another 10, 12 feet. How are you going to do that without disrupting the rest of the slope, even with the equipment you're bringing in?
So,
how are you going to protect the rest of that slope?
so we were looking at this, and this is a bit, so Greg was looking at this. Greg was looking at this, so I'm talking on his behalf. Greg was looking at this, and so ultimately, we don't expect, we think we're going to be able to crane all the materials down to that middle section, the middle terrace there, from the street down to the flat section at the bottom of the first slope. He believes that that shouldn't be an issue, and he mentioned to me that there was an issue of potential tree removal. He thinks that there's absolutely no reason for tree removal as of now, looking at it on paper. However, down the road, when they start, getting ready to bring the materials there, if they're running into any types of issues getting these materials, as you're bringing up, because it's very possible, we'll have to come back before you and come up with a solution to that if disturbances are required to get those materials down there.
So as of now, you're not proposing any disturbances to the trees?
No, not on that. Nope. No, the only tree, there's the stump removal technically, but on that eastern side to get the materials down there, we're not proposing any disturbances to the trees right now. No.
Thank you.
You're not pulling stumps, are you?
No.
Okay.
Well, there's one stump that's proposed to be chopped flat or cut flat, and that's in a totally different location of the property. It's in front of the existing shed. It's just south of the applicant's very southern end of his building there.
Right. So you're gonna place those blocks. You're gonna bring a piece of equipment down below, into the area, the sanded area with the steep slope. Is that what you're gonna be doing?
Brian, I think I can help you. Permission
Yeah.
to speak, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, permission to speak?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The equipment, the one piece that I believe we're going to be bringing down, because I have already talked to a contractor about this, will not be on the water's edge at all. It will be on our property, on my property, and we'll be working from my property, reaching down, removing the ties and setting the blocks in. So it will not be on the sand or near the water at all.
So you're staying on the uphill. And
Staying-
how are you gonna, okay, I guess my visual picture was there was a ton of trees sitting down closer to halfway through. I would love to see how you're gonna do it.
Well, I did ask the contractor how we were going to get them down there, and he took me, I think I've said this once before at one of these meetings.
Yeah.
He showed me an area, he pointed to an area and he identified it. It would be just north of the shed that's up there on the plan. And he said, I can get them down right through here. And I just said, okay, how he's going to do that, even if he's awarded the job, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know I can't cut any trees. I know I can't do any of that without coming back to talk to you folks, and I wouldn't do anything like that. But this wall is failing. You saw it. If you
Oh,
hit the
yeah.
sidewalk, it's going to fall over sooner or later.
Anything else, Jack?
No, that would be it. I'm anxious to see. I would love to
Well,
invite me.
maybe you should buy a ticket to watch, Jack.
It'll be fun to watch.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments from members of the public?
Yes. I like this.
Carl Luck.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, speaking as the abutter, just a few questions. I think, Ryan, I think that solution with the sheet, whatever you called it. I think
Sheet
I think
pile.
that's excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's an excellent solution. Appreciate you and Greg putting your heads together, coming up with that. I just, I'm sure it will, but just to hear you say it, so that will for sure secure our wall, so that on the 3 locations, our walls will be secure and not
Yes.
not fail. That's true. Okay, great.
Yep.
Yeah, the other question related to those 3 or the 2 lake ones. Eventually, you know, our walls, which has partly caused this problem, are the same age as the Trembleys. So they're going to have to be replaced at some point. When our walls are replaced, what will be required in that area? What would that process look like? And will I have to infringe upon the Trembleys' property?
Well, so us leaving the sheet pile there will, as not a temporary measure, but a permanent measure, will definitely help if you go to, you know, if you want to repair the existing wall. But I'm not familiar or have an exact solution for you. If you were going to repair your walls, I guess a piece of the railroad tie would just, you know, you could do something very similar. You could, you know, again, install some sheet pile on your side, but then there would be some, as proposed, there's going to be some retaining wall left on Richard's property. So if you wanted to do a very similar process, I'm sure there might be another solution as well, but just because I've thought this one through, if you did something of a very similar manner, I guess you could just leave the tiebacks. You could cut the existing wall at your property and leave the tiebacks as proposed of the existing wall on Richard's property. Unless Richard.
Okay, so you would envision that I could, or my contractor could basically excavate as required, and the backside is the big challenge. So they could excavate as required right up to that sheet, that metal. They could just go right up to that metal.
Enough.
And then
Yes.
start
Yep.
the wall from that metal. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that go deep enough so that I can put a wall.
Yes. Yeah.
Similar technology to what Trembleys are putting in.
Yes. Yep.
Good. Okay, great. Yeah, it looks that way. I wanted to hear it from.
Yep.
From
Yeah,
Andy.
and again, I apologize. I'm sure there might be another solution, but this is the one that we at least thought through. So there's no reason, at least that I can think of, is why you couldn't mirror that. And you know, there's the issue with that is that now you're left with that stub of existing retaining wall, right, on the applicant's property. But I guess that's a separate issue, you know.
Yeah,
but
and then I'm sure he could get rid of it. So with that there, then that could get, once my walls changed, he could get rid of that and make it look prettier. Okay, great. So the other question, you mentioned trees. I'm sure there's a way to get down in there, but I wouldn't at all be surprised because they're so full that maybe, you know, some major pruning might be required. And I did hear Mr. Tremblay clearly say that he wouldn't do anything without coming back, which is great, and I believe that, and I would expect no less of him. The question as your butter is, how will I be notified if that request comes back to the commission?
Well, if we have to come back, does that require us to re-notify all the butters if we're kind of not opening up the order of conditions again, but if we're reapproaching the project, would that require us to re-notify? I'm unfamiliar with that, so.
Well, I mean, if you're going to remove trees on the property, it may require an amendment to the order. So it may require you to reopen a portion of the order, which would result in a butter notification and re-advertisement.
Okay.
It wouldn't open up the entire permit. It would only open up that area that you're proposing work.
Okay. So I guess that's how you would be notified.
Okay, so I guess I would appreciate the commission's consideration to put into the order of conditions that if there are any modifications, even field modifications planned, that the agent is made aware of, that I would be made aware of in a timely fashion so that I could make comment if necessary. I think that could be added to the conditions because there's a lot of work along the line here. Okay. I guess the last thing in general, moving away from the walls, and so this is my last area of interest, where that tree is being removed, where there's where it's halfway through the fence, the fence is going to have to be taken down around that tree, at least one section on each side of the tree, perhaps more. It's hard to tell from this what the plan is regarding how much of that fence will be removed for the work. But my question is that fence was installed in such a way that in order to do any work on it, to remove a panel, it's all attached from the back side, so it needs access from my property side to unbolt. It's basically bolted from the back side to poles, steel poles that are in the ground. I'm wondering how that's going to happen. What's that process going to look like? Is access to the fence from my side going to be required? If not, how is that going to happen? Because I don't see how you can get there. It's not just that fence, it's the front piece where the front wall is, and it's the fence back where the back wall is. So there's three sections of the fence that are affected to do what's on this plan. The east side along the lake is a section of fence that I think in the order conditions is to be repaired. I think the post is broken or something. But again, to remove that panel, you got to access from my side, as far as I can tell, unless you have 6-foot arms, where the tree is being removed, which is a great thing. Same situation, some sections of fence have to be removed. And then finally on the west side, in order to do that work, and I believe that fence has to be removed, but perhaps that fence doesn't. Maybe you could clarify whether or not that fence is going to stay in place.
Well, it says on the plan, existing fence to be repaired following the removal of the 17-inch oak.
Yeah, that one's for sure. You can't even get at the oak without, because that fence is attached to the oak. So
Are you talking about a different place, Carl?
Yeah, on the shoreline in the front, on the east side. I think in the request, or it should be, but I believe it is there, that fence, that last section at least is to be repaired. It's held up with a stick and a rope right now. So it does need repair, but you have to take the panel off. And then on the west side at the lake where the wall is being replaced, I would think that fence also has to be removed in order to get access and do the work. So maybe Ryan, you could talk to those three fence areas. Is the fence work still required? If so, how is it going to be done without access to our property?
So I have a quick question for you, Carl. I know, so next to the tree and then just west of that is where we're talking. And where was the third?
On the shore, on the west, on the east shore.
Okay.
Where we were just talking about the wall.
Yes, okay.
There's fence all along the property line. So anywhere in the property
Brian, I can
line.
help you out. Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, permission to speak?
Go ahead.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yeah,
All
go
right,
ahead.
thanks. Yeah, the slats are gonna be removed from my side of the property because 90% of them just screw into the boards that are attached to the posts. And the work should be able to be done on my side. I mean, I don't foresee having to go onto Kyle's side at all on any of those 3 locations that he talked about. The tree stump, we're not going to take up the root because I know that was an issue. We were concerned, or Mr. Luck was concerned about the roots being on his property. So we're just going to flush cut that, and then we'll have to repair the fence, probably require a post, a few more slats and whatnot, and that should be able to be installed from my side. I may even have to reach over to tighten something and into the airspace, but I think that the work can be completed from my side of the property with little effort.
Thank you, Richard.
Sir.
Any other questions, Carl?
No, there's a process that, you know, and again, I'm not saying I wouldn't give the approval, but Mr. Tremblay seems to not want to talk about this. So as long as without discussing it further and approval, all work can be done, you know, appropriately from his side, that's fine.
Any other questions or comments from members of the public? This is a notice of intent. I'm looking for a motion to approve this notice of intent.
So
Jack Rabbit.
Mr. Chairman, are we adding in this NOI an order of condition to notify the abutter of any changes in the plan?
Are you going to put that in your motion, Jack?
Yes, please.
Is that a motion, Jack?
That is a motion. Order to put in the order of condition to add notification to abutter of any changes to the plan.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Any further discussion? Roll call
Mr.
vote.
Chairman?
Ken Jones. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question for clarification?
Absolutely, Richard.
Again.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Changes to the plan. Now, there's a lot on this plan. So, I mean, if it became necessary to, I don't know, I'll pick something. One of the garden walls is going to be a minor change to it or something. Then we have to notify the abutter. I thought the abutter was only concerned about things along the property line itself. See what I'm saying? There's a lot of moving parts to this plan.
I would say if something rises to the level where it has to come back to the commission,
Yes. Okay.
then we'd be notifying the abutter.
Okay, that's very fair. Thank you, sir.
Okay?
Yes.
Because it doesn't have to come back to the commission. It's, you know, it's kind of like that would be my interpretation. If a member wants to have a different interpretation, now is the time to object to my interpretation.
I would accept your interpretation, Bob. Anything that's got to come back to us, we notify them. And but that certainly would be, if I'm going to be taking a tree down or tearing some stuff up, that's a change. That should come back to us.
Yep. Then I think that concludes that public hearing. I notice we have a hearing continued to June 16th.
Bob, we got to vote.
We did vote.
We did vote.
Oh, we did vote. And so Bob's, okay, that's interpretation. Okay, that's fine.
Joanna.
My question is to clarify, because I think what I heard was, so if no trees are coming down, we're all set. But if we have to prune our trees, we don't have to go to the commission for that. So the abutter would not be notified.
Well, if something happens that in, you know, the agent's opinion would require either a field change or an amendment to the order of conditions, that has to come back to the commission, and that would then, you know, trigger a notification to the abutter. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, if any questions were to come up related to that, I would give Matt a call. Matt Morrow, would he be the first?
Absolutely.
All right, very good. Thank you.
He is the person in charge of that process. Ryan, I think we're done.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good
All
night.
right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Have a good one.
Matt, I don't think we have to do anything with this hearing continued to June 16th, 2021, because we did it last time. Am I correct?
Right, I just noted it to keep it on the agenda, so it was still on your minds.
So then I have a question, though. I have a recollection that we had a property at Lake Shirley where there was a whole bunch of walls that were going to be redone by Mr. Proctor and by Matt Proctor, and it was going out for, we needed an engineered plan. Whatever happened to that application?
There hasn't been any action on it. I don't know if he's abandoned the NOI, but I've withdrawn it from the agenda, and he would have to basically re-advertise and re-notify the abutters like it was a new hearing.
Okay. So basically, you consider that NOI withdrawn?
For the time being, yes. Like I said, if he comes back with a plan,
Okay.
I know he quoted from engineers, and it was a pretty elaborate expense, so.
I will see where it would be. Thank you, Matthew.
Mhm.
Can you take us through violations and enforcement?
Okay. Leominster Road. That was actually the Woodruff property.
Yep.
We viewed that. Heather is asking how the commission wants to go with this. Do we want them to file a notice of intent? Do we issue a non-adversarial enforcement order requiring them to do the cleanup? The 21E's been done. It's just basically showing that the material can be just removed from site and no further work would be necessary. So I don't know how you guys want to handle that.
Well, I don't know if people have read the report of the consultant. You know, the consultant seems to feel that most of the work can be done from the top of the slope.
Well, I know that our other applicant, Mr. Shank, did all of his work from the top of the slope, and he removed 13 dumpster loads of debris from, from that farm dump from his side of the property line. And actually he went over the property line and removed some from the Woodruff property as well. And he seemed to do it without being impactful to the riverfront at all.
I mean, we could do it through a friendly enforcement order, or we could have them file an NOI. Open.
We are allowed to do it through enforcement action.
I understand that, and so I'm open for comment in from the commission on the direction we want to go here.
Mr. Chairman,
You go ahead, Ken.
I haven't seen the expert report or the engineer or whoever it was, licensed site professional, whatever. But my own observation of the site, I mean, there's definitely some material that's in the wetland at the base of the hill, tires and some barrels and things like that are going to have to be removed by getting into the wetland to do. And I mean, the slope of that hill is such that I don't know how they can do it all from the top. They're going to have to get halfway down with a machine or something to get some of that material out of there. So I think they're going to have to file a notice of intent, personally.
Thank you, Ken. Other comments from commission members?
Mr. Chairman, I kind of agree with Ken. When we're looking at it, I don't think you can get a crane in to be able to pull it without, with all the trees that are still sitting in that area. I would think we would need a permit.
I agree with both Jack and Ken on this. I think they should file a notice of intent. I think the consultant was a little optimistic. in their assessment there.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So, Matt, I haven't heard anybody else say anything different. I think you should ask, tell Heather they should file a notice of intent.
Yeah, that's no problem. Just one direction.
Thank you. 615 Townsend Street.
His deadline is up. He's due for an inspection tomorrow. So the last I went to check on it, there has been some work progressing. I'm going to go see if he wrapped it up over the holiday weekend, and we'll report back to the commission at the next meeting. If he's done it satisfactorily, I will recommend that the action be removed. If not, I'm going to modify his order.
And what's going on at 467 Lancaster? I've lost track of what that is.
That was the ATV that went through the wetland. The area's
Oh,
burned
right,
back
right.
in.
Okay.
You guys asked me to keep it on the agenda, just monitor it and bring it to your attention if there
Yeah,
is a
every time I
change.
go by there, I try to figure out, has he been back in there or not? And it's hard to tell.
Well, if he was back in there, you'd know.
Okay.
I'm telling you, you'd know. It would be very. I mean, Ken, I think, can speak from experience to that. You'd see it right away.
Especially with now lately how wet it's been.
Fire Road 16. Oh, that's the key.
I have to get an update from Keating's on the cleanup work, so I can have that for the next meeting.
I was looking at that. That's in Lunenburg, that area right there.
Yes, it is.
Son of a gun. The 48 Oak Ridge
Working on a new RDA.
and 205 Arbor Street. That's the agriculture horse manure.
Still haven't heard back from DEP. DEP, as you guys know, they've had a change in personnel. They've been really backlogged, so I have to give them some time.
Okay. Tell us about the 54 Pine Acres removal of 3 trees. Do we have pictures?
54 Pine Acre. No, and I wasn't even through with the nons yet. I had 2 more.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Well, what are they? I apologize.
37 Pearl Street.
Okay.
When we were doing our inspections on 48 Pearl Street, we I think it was myself and Jeff had noted there was work going on at 37. And I visited the gentleman yesterday at at 37 Pearl. And he was taking out an existing walkway going down to the steps that on a shoreline that lead to the water. He's got one of those very similar to 45. Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the street. It was the one on the corner of Johnson Street, where you have the concrete retaining wall, you have the stairs that indent, and then it goes to a set of concrete stairs that go into the water. This gentleman here is removing an old walkway. He stopped his work currently. He was going to reinstall a walkway of similar dimension. I'm working with him on an RDA submittal for this.
And what else we got?
Let's see. 2 Brookview Terrace. We had issued a negative determination of applicability for the gentleman here to do some tree work. He did the tree work, started getting a little over ambitious, and added beach sand. So having him file another supplemental RDA and drawing for that. So
Okay.
he sent me pictures of the site, and I'm working with him on getting the paperwork and the, he had a decent plan from his prior RDA. So we're going to have to modify all of that to show what he's done in addition to the tree work.
Okay.
And come up with a course of action from there on during his hearing.
Anything else?
Nope, that will do it.
Mr. Chairman, Matt?
Yeah.
wasn't it Brookview? Was that the one where we had pictures and sent them over to you with regard to dumping the sand, but also digging out close by, right by the water's edge there? Was that
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. Okay. And the other one was just follow up on the Townsend Harbor Road one, the extra trees coming out, the septic system and all the other stuff going on. Is there anything on that?
No, I haven't had a chance to get to him yet. That was the guy we issued the emergency permit to that you and I said we would work on in-house.
Yes, right. I was just wondering if we could keep that on, just so we can not get lost.
Yep.
Also, there was something that about 6 months ago, we'd come across some small camps that were evolving on the Lake Shirley, right down the slope. You know, Carl and I had found them, a couple of them. Did you get a chance to go visit those at all, or?
No, you were supposed to give me a guided tour of the area.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. And the same thing, we've got something small going on the Malpas, just the mouth of the brook there. Some people have just put some, you know.
Same spot?
Lawn furniture across from Mr. O'Brien's. I'll send you some pictures. I just wanted to see if we'd follow up and closed on that. That's all.
Yeah, well, we can take a look at that, sure.
Okay. Hey, Carl, if you're still there. No. Oh, he is. Hey, Carl, what were the addresses on those camps? Did you recall?
I assume this is right where Sunset Lane turns into Rob's Hill. That small area.
I think those are the two. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's right. If you it's right when you come down that. It's right when you come down Rob's Hill Road towards the lake, and you hit Lake Shirley. It's just it's just to the right. It's the first two little 50-foot wide, 20 feet deep lots.
Yeah, right down there. Okay, I'll come over and we'll go and you can point it out to me and get the name, the address.
No, Jack, you probably get the address off of the assessor's website. You know, if you go on the assessor's GIS website.
Yeah, I'm just not exactly sure which piece. We took pictures, but I would have our. I'm not.
Jack, I'll go to the assessor's website and send you the addresses in that.
Thank you, Carl.
Anything else under enforcement?
At this time, no. We're gonna have to continue 54 Pine Acres to the next meeting.
Okay. We're planning to have an update on Reno Hollis Road scheduled for June 16th.
Yeah, I confirmed with Gary. He will be here.
Can we put an ad in the paper advertising that we're going to have a discussion of that at the June 16th meeting?
Yeah.
I mean, this would be for the public's benefit. I don't think it has to conform with, it's not a requirement. You know, I don't think we have to worry about, oh, is it 10 days in advance or anything like that? It's just a courtesy to the public. It's just an idea. If no one, if we can't, or if other people don't like it, that's fine too. But it's just an idea, a thought I had.
It's a good idea, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I made note.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vinny, and what used to be Monica.
We have encroachment on town open space. I drafted a letter to I drafted a summary of the site visit. I got to discuss it with Matt yet before I send it off to Heather and Tom, asking for them to do the survey. And at some point soon, we have to take and schedule a public hearing to revise the Lane and the Table Rock land use plans to eliminate the special permit requirement for bow hunting. And Hunting Hills. I reached out to Hunting Hills and went and spoke with the abutters. I got one more set of abutters I want to talk to, but I spoke with the woman who looks out on the field. And she had a bunch of concerns about, first of all, no one's haying the field. If you look at the original conservation restriction, it says that field should be maintained as a hay field. It's not being hayed. And it hasn't been hayed for like 6 or 7 years. I still have to find out what's going on with the haying in the front. I spoke with the Pierce. That's the woman who wrote the letter to the selectmen calling for my removal. And she and I have had a nice chat, and also a nice chat with her husband about what their concerns are relative to Hunting Hill, and more particularly with some of the land that's really not in our jurisdiction in Townsend. And I also reached out and spoke with I forget what her new name is, the former Ms. Wombly, who abuts both Hunting Hills and Small Town Forest about what their concerns are. And so at some point, another meeting or so we'll take, and we'll talk about all of those. I'll put them all in writing. We'll talk about all those and talk about scheduling a joint meeting with and how to go about having a joint meeting with Shirley Conservation and Mass Wildlife, to address some of these things. Because taking a look at the original conservation restriction, it says that area is to be governed by a by 3 parties jointly. Only the 3 parties have never met since we acquired the land since 1990. So in that power vacuum, Mass Wildlife fills the void, and they're deciding everything that goes on there right now. So communications, public comment. Any public comment from members of the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
In regards to Hollis Road, the pollinator habitat and the house there. So the lawn at the house and the pollinator habitat was being mowed with a mower that I had sort of donated to the property, and it's since fallen into disrepair, and it can't be repaired. An opportunity presented itself to get a new lawnmower, not a new lawnmower, but a different lawnmower for fairly reasonable money. So I purchased the lawnmower for that property. I think that the property really needs a mower to maintain both the pollinator habitat and the lawn at the house at 123. So I was looking to potentially get reimbursed.
How much?
It's $300. It's a really nice ride-on lawnmower. It's used, but it's been serviced. It's well maintained, and I think it's a good investment.
Matt, administratively, do you see any problems reimbursing Ken the $300 for the lawnmower for the maintenance of our property at Hollis Road?
No, I'm gonna need you guys to vote on it though, because.
Absolutely. But before I call for vote, I wanted to see,
No.
from your point of view as the person who has to process the paperwork, do you see any problems with that?
No, long as I have a vote, I can get Karen to issue.
I'm looking for a motion to reimburse Ken $300 for the purchase of the lawnmower to maintain the property at Hollis Road.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Katie waved her arm. I'm going to call that a second. Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
It's for me, so I'll recuse myself from the vote.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck. didn't require any homework, Carl. You can vote on that. Okay, no Carl. Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank
Any
you.
other public comment from members of the commission?
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Go ahead, Richard.
we had talked briefly this week, myself in reviewing McGurn's and other applications that we've had, I think we're falling out of a uniform way of accepting these applications and processing them. So I have asked Matt, he did pull out the bylaw waiver request form and put it on the cloud. I would like to have us have the office make sure that those are properly filled out with each application. And that becomes a two-prong effort, Matt, in making sure that he provides it and gets it back filled out, and the commission itself holding applicants' feet to the fire to make sure that we do have this information. There's also an application instruction sheet that goes with notice of intent that has a check sheet on the back that really isn't all that onerous for most applicants. Structure, proposed development, some color scheming would be nice. I think we would have definitely answered a lot of our questions early in the application process at McGurn's. If we could figure out what lines were what and where they were in the 30-foot, where they were out of the 30-foot. Another application that we only saw briefly that would have benefited greatly from the color is 101 Pleasant Street. But again, I think it is two-pronged. We have to ensure that the office is making sure that we get all of this information and the applicants are issued these check sheets, and that the commission itself doesn't go forward and holds applicants' feet to the fire to make sure that each application and plan and documentation is uniform when we decide them. Even this evening, I mean, we have plans that don't have wetlands marked on them, don't have buffer zones marked on them. So it really gets hard to, expect it from some and not accept it from others. So I would ask that we review those sheets and moving forward, have the office ensure that we have all of the uniform information on each application moving forward.
I would just, I think that's a fine idea, Richard. I would just comment, when we get to the point where we don't have upwards of 12 hearings a night, if and when that ever happens, I'd like to take and examine our entire application packet and process, what the information is available on our website, how it's organized on our website. What's in the application process, what's in the instructions, what's it, do we have an easy to follow check sheet? So I'd like to spend some considerable time examining that, but not when we're having 18, 21 hearings a night. So.
No, I certainly agree with that. Like I say, Matt, we've already had these sheets. Matt and Carl, I believe, put together the waiver form a few years ago, and Matt and I put together the instruction form about 5 years ago.
Yep.
So, and it's just a 2-page application instructions, but half of the second page is the checklist of what a plan should require. And again, I don't think it's very onerous information, especially when you look at what the planning board requires of their plans that are submitted there. They're looking at fonts and size of text. And so, I mean, we certainly don't need to go to that level, but I do think we need to come up with a more uniform, more uniform applications that we're approving.
Well, but the planning board deals mostly with professionals. We get a lot of people applying for themselves, that have never been before a board before. And I want to ensure that,
Yeah, but
I
again,
think we're all reading.
Sorry.
No, I think we're all working to achieve the same goal. We have complete applications.
But to have a plan submitted, I mean, we're dealing with wetlands, to have a plan submitted that doesn't have a wetland marked on it is, in my mind, not a complete application. So, I mean, there has to, there's not much information that we do need, and again, to add a few of these informational things to a plan that are on the checklist are not that difficult.
Yep.
If you could put your name on it, you can put a line at 30 feet and 50 feet. And I think it would help our process by having us request less and continue less. So, but the forms are there to review. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any other comments from commissioners? Any comments from members of the public? And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
I just found the mute button.
Oh, congratulations, Carl. Jack
There
Rabbit.
it is.
Aye.
So it's time to leave. Do I have 1 minute?
Absolutely, Carl.
Just to thank
Absolutely.
everyone.
Absolutely. Whatever Carl wants.
Just for a minute. This is the last minute. You should enjoy it. I just want to thank everybody. It's a lot of work. You guys do a lot of work. And I know everybody tries as hard as they can to do what they think's right. And everybody knows there's a lot to do to get it done better. And I'm sure everybody wants to get it done better. And I couldn't agree more with both Bob's and Richard's goals to get done. You got to find a way to get it done. It would shorten the meetings. If some of those things happened and were required, you wouldn't have 5-hour meetings, I think. That's my belief. And I wish you well, and I wish you shorter meetings and less work, but keep up the good work. Thank you.
So Carl, does this mean you're not going to join us on the 16th?
No, I honestly believed and have mentally adjusted to having it been the end of my term on June 1st. Somehow I thought I saw.
Well then, Carl, congratulations on your retirement.
Yes, it's time. It's absolutely time. Thank you very much.
Oh, congratulations and thank you for everything you've done.
You all do.
You are always so well prepared and you are so great at details. And you care so deeply.
Thanks, Carl.
I do care. Thank you all.
Thank you, Carl.
You
Thank you,
haven't
Carl.
seen
Thank you, Carl.
I'll come back and say hi. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Stay safe.
And with that, we're going to end the meeting.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everybody.
Night, guys.
Well, I don't know, I gotta click all this stuff off.
Hey, Matt,
Yes, sir.
can you look at that site summary I sent you from our visit to 192 Townsend Harbor?
Yep, I will. I will.
With the
I will do it.
pictures, because I made some conclusions in there. In my view, what we saw that they showed that at some time in the past, the wetlands had been filled in. At some time in the past, that there's debris piled in the wetlands. I just want to make sure you thought that those conclusions were warranted before I send that off to, to Heather and Tom. I just want to make sure we get their attention.
No, I'll definitely give it a good once over. I mean, I have a pretty fresh view in my head of the site inspection we did, so.
All right. Good night.
Night, Carl. Night, Bob.
Night.